Alan, you want a mic check really quick?
Yep.
Got it. You gave a.
All right, there's going to be a 1 minute warning. 1 minute warning.
Couldn't hear you. Once again, please. One more time, Alan, please.
When does he?
Alan Steinbeck is here.
That was good, thanks.
All right,
Thanks.
so we are going to get this council meeting going. Today is February 3rd, and I call this meeting to order. Up first is going to be our invocation by our one and only Pastor Steve Ferris for the First Baptist Church of Destin. Thanks for being here.
Father in heaven, we just thank you for your goodness and grace, and the Lord that you blessed us to be here tonight, each and every one that's able to come. Lord, you bless this nation beyond anything ever in the history of the world. And Lord, there's a lot of changes going on, and we need your guidance and your help. And Lord, to be able to bear with one another with all through these changes that go. And Lord, I pray tonight for wisdom as with our councilmen and our people here discuss things for the future. Lord, I just pray you'd lead and guide them. And Lord, again, we just want to thank you for your goodness and your grace. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right, with Aber not here, Jimmy, if you want to do the honors?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, well, thank you all for being here, those in person and online. And I hope everyone had a wonderful, magical snow day, snow week. So with that, we will get right into the agenda approval. With Councilwoman Aber not here, I was just going to take hers, unless someone else was going to grab it. Okay.
I just need to add something.
All right.
And I would like to pull 3A for discussion on the consent agenda.
All right. And then I was going to 3A.
I had an item I wanted to talk about, also the 3E.
All right, and I was hoping to talk 3B with the master plan. A, B, E. And I got B. A, B, and E will be pulled. Yeah, yeah, the E, yep.
So moved.
All right, I got a motion. Second. All right.
I got one more, Mayor.
Oh, you got one as well. Oh, yes, sir.
I need to, we'll need to move 6A number 3 to the next meeting if we can, please.
6A, okay.
Yeah, that's going to be the noise ordinance.
All right.
If we can just put that back under my name on the next meeting, be great. Thank you.
All right, yes, sir. Perfect.
And I want to add, under my name, number 2, I guess, would be residential design standards.
Okay.
We'll talk about it when we get there.
All right. This is what happens when we miss a meeting.
Are you talking about lobbyist engagement policy? That's what you...
I was just gonna just put it under my name and then have staff bring us up to speed on that. Yep. All right. So with all that, everyone kind of understand where we're at? Yep. We'll figure it out as we roll. All right, with that, I got a motion in a second, and I'll call the vote. Ray?
Oops.
I'm not getting my consultant over there.
Got the blind lead blind over there.
Well, where is,
I thought we did that already.
I guess I gotta go out to Chrome and.
All right, there we go. Ayes have it 6-0, so moved. All right,
agenda
and we're going to be pushing the 1A, the DEP stuff? Oh, you're
got a
gonna-
little bit of
all right.
updates.
All right,
Yeah.
jump on in.
Yeah, our DEP rep wasn't able to be here tonight. He was going to be here before we had the snowmageddon. So he has shared the latest construction progress at Norriego Point and also for the Joe's Bayou Mattie Kelly Improvement Project. So we'll just go through a couple of the highlights. You guys have the full list. And then also for anyone in the room or listening in, we did put up on the website the full list so that you can spend more time on it if you want. But just some of the highlights. At Norriego, completion is expected by the end of this week for the shoreline stabilization at the harbor entrance, which includes the site grading and placement mats. Installation of the pilings for the boardwalk are about halfway done, and the piles for the dune crossovers are at 80% completion, with the piles for the restroom and pavilion complete. And then our DEP rep did list some of the work that's either going to be started this week or within the next 30 days. And here's a few of those things. They expect to begin construction of the restroom facility, and that should be actually done by mid-May. They're going to begin framing and decking of dune crossovers number 1 through 3, and that's expected to be completed mid-March. And then the framing and decking of the harbor boardwalk is expected to be completed mid-April, and they're looking at late 2025, June, to have it all done. This, of course, can change due to weather, traffic around the area, and such. And one of the concerns that the DEP rep asked us to express was that going into March and April, with the amount of boat traffic anticipated during spring break, especially by the rental boats and the beverage barges that may desire to pull up on the harbor side while work's being conducted, that they would love some help on that from the city, the county, the harbor authority, anybody that can help them out to ensure that doesn't impede their progress. Okay. And again, on our website, on our main page toward the bottom, under news and info, you can find all sorts of different city activities, but this in particular has a lot more detail that the DEP rep shared. All right, as for Joe's Bayou and Mattie Kelly Park,
Can I interrupt you, please, before you go on?
absolutely.
Do we know if the construction fencing is going to be installed all the way down Norriego Point, regardless of where the project is? Because if there's fencing down there, shouldn't there not be an issue with boats?
I would think not. We can certainly follow up and find out.
Okay. If y'all mind checking that out, because I'd like to be proactive in what the city can provide for the assistance. So if they're gonna put fencing there, that should block boats, I would assume. But if we could just get a little bit more details before March, should be great. Just so we can maybe, as a council, see if there's something we should do out there.
Yeah, and I do know that they've placed the signage, but I think you're right. The more we can get out there, the better. Yeah. Okay. As for Joe's Bayou and Mattie,
Wait a minute, I've been buzzing in. I thought you probably didn't see it because I didn't do it.
I don't see you on here. It's
I do have a
technology.
question, though. What's the status of our parking along the extension of Gulf Shore? Because we'll have a park with no parking if we don't find out. And I suppose, Ms. Kopp, you may have some kind of a handle on what's going on.
Yeah, that road is pretty much complete, other than the final lift. And so when the park is done, they were going to finish up the painting and the striping. But other than that, it's done.
It's going to be
there.
ready? Good, thanks.
All right, Councilman Trammell?
Can boats still park in the embayments that are on the opposite side of Norriego Point during construction, or are those blocked off as well?
From what I recall, I actually think that they were going to put the construction fencing on the embayment side, not on the harbor side. But I don't want to commit to that because we haven't talked about it in a while. So we'll get the information and bring it back next time. But my recollection early on was the fence was not going to go around the entire thing, but that may have changed.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Bagby?
Yeah, a question for an answer for next time. Do we want to just say, hey, until it's complete, until we cut the ribbon, no boat parking on the harbor side of Norriego Point? And then, I don't want to get into well, we need all the help we can get in enforcement. Just say, no, this is easy to enforce, because if they change their standard every week of, well, you can park from here to here because we finished that, but no, next week you can't park, it's just confusing. Just say, no parking
You can
till it's done.
definitely say that, and DEP would be thrilled if council said that. I just think we haven't said it yet, so they're hoping.
Okay. Well, I know there's a lot going on in that whole area, but we'll see.
All right, and that is a clear board. Back to you.
All right, so as for Joe's Bayou and Mattie Kelly Park Improvement Project, the field investigations, the data collection, the public outreach, survey and all of that has been done. And anybody that wants to find out more information about that, there's a Joe's Bayou website, a dedicated website that will be kept up to date all throughout the construction phase. So it's a pretty nice website with lots of detail and diagrams and information on there. But some of the just highlights that the DEP rep shared were that the permit applications have been submitted, and to a couple of places, the public notifications were completed by both permitting agencies with no objections. The DEP permit has been received, and we're waiting for the COE permit. Once the COE permit is received, the 90% plans will be finalized and reviewed with city staff and presented to the Parks and Rec Committee, and of course you all in City Council. We're anticipating that this month or next, that's when that'll happen, and then those plans will be submitted for review to the city's development department to receive its DO, its development order. At that time, DEP will advertise for construction bids upon the receipt of the DO, and we're expecting advertisements for bids and award of construction to be through the May-July 2025 timeframe. And then they said they're looking at February 2027 still for substantial completion of construction.
Councilman Bagby.
Hey, Larry, can you have whoever's working the permitting send me who they talked to at the Corps of Engineers? Because I have lots of contacts over there. I can usually find where it is, get it unlocked.
Perfect. All right, that's it. Good deal. All right, with that, we'll move into the public comments portion of this meeting. So we will start with my left, y'all's right, and please come on down. And I guess I'll put my public notice out there that if you are here to speak on anything from the public hearings, we will have our open session specifically for those topics, and that will be your time to do so. Yes, sir. Name and address.
Don Dallas, 442 Snapper. How about this sunshine? Cool, 70-something degrees. Hey, I got a little attaboy going out today. Usually I don't. Boy, that thing's loud. Live Oak. That's one of the companies that are putting the conduit down for the fiber optic cables. They're doing, I don't know how much of my street, but quite a bit, as well as Juanita. And from what I saw, they're doing an excellent job, okay? Mike, you heard that, okay? I asked them a few questions. I wasn't bugging them, but, you know, certain things, of course, all my sprinklers are out there, and I was kind of worried about them hitting them and stuff like it. They answered all my questions. I checked my sprinklers today because I drained them for the 20-degree mess, and they all work, so I'm tickled to death. So attaboy to y'all for getting them guys down there. Thank you.
That needs to be an award. The attaboy award. All right, anyone else here to speak on not public hearings? All right, see, yes, sir. Push the gray button. Yep, there you go.
Okay. My name is Steve Napier, and I live at 126 Country Club Drive West. And I want to start by saying thank you to all of y'all and the city for coming out and putting in a swell that's helped some of the flooding issues over on the street. And I appreciate the cleaning out the drain. That really helped a lot too. But I'm coming tonight on another issue. I just want y'all to be aware of it. But over on the corner of TP and Indian Bayou North, there's a big hole right beside of where the culvert is at. And whenever it snowed and all, I just hate to see one of these kids get hurt. And a few months back, I think it was the city road department or somebody that went over there and put a cone in it to mark it. But you know how kids are, and I just don't want any of them to get hurt. And I want to tell you again, thank y'all for helping me get my flooding issue addressed. It's not fixed, but it's a lot better than it was, and I appreciate it.
I appreciate you bringing that up. Yep. Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, seeing that, we'll close the public comment portion of the meeting and move along. I will do,
Motion to approve
There you
3C,
go.
3 Delta, 3F, 3G, and 3H on the consent agenda.
appreciate that. I have a motion. Do I hear a second? Seconded by Councilman Destin. Seeing nothing, I will call the vote. All right, ayes have it on that, and we will start with 3A. Councilman Destin, was that you?
Nope, that was me.
All right.
Yeah, I would, and I talked to the staff about this during my time period. We're going about this a little awkwardly. We want contractors to come in and tell us what they think is wrong with the community center and then give us a bid on what they think is wrong. And what we should be doing is having an RFP to have an inspector or somebody who's qualified to inspect buildings come in and say, this is why you have water leaks, this is why, so it's these two windows and that part of the roof and this door and all this other stuff. And then that's the statement of work that we put out for a contractor, as opposed to having GCs come in because they might miss something, or then we're not comparing apples to apples. We're comparing apples to oranges based on what they found and not what actually exists, because maybe they're stronger on doors or they're stronger on roofs or whatever. So I would ask that we direct staff to develop an RFP for an inspection of the community center to bring us back the laundry list of everything we want repaired to fix the leaks, fix the wind, fix everything in the community center.
Yeah, jump in. So I do have a motion.
I'll second that motion.
All right, I have a first and a second. Councilman Gao, jump in.
That proposition is exactly how people get rich off change orders. As a contractor, I can't tell you how many times an inspector or an engineer comes out and sets the scope of work that does not understand waterproofing, does not understand roofing, they have a basic knowledge of general practice, but they don't have the in-depth knowledge of waterproofing or roofing or repairs. And I've made fortunes off change orders just off that type of scenario, where you have an inspector, you have an engineer write a scope of work that doesn't understand, and when we reach a point where it doesn't apply real world, or it needs to be extended beyond what they recognize, that's when I mark things up like ungodly. So, I mean, I think you're opening yourself up for the potential of a change order higher cost in the end.
Yeah, and I would just say, my experience is just the opposite of that, okay? Where we didn't know what we wanted. We had the general contractor, the expert, come in and tell us what we needed, and then, he missed this because he didn't have expertise in roofing or expertise in sealing the envelope, the building envelope. And so he presented us with change orders that would, on something we told him, what do we need to fix this problem? So I think we're going to open ourselves up either way. I think the way you solve that is you get an inspector who knows what the heck they're doing and can write, and that's not necessarily an engineer. That is, scout. I've had water detection folks come in from all over the place and say, okay, this is what's leaking on your roof, this is what's leaking on the doors, this is what's leaking on the windows. This is because most of it's water intrusion. And I'm not saying we should use HydroScout or any specific company. I'm just saying get somebody who knows what the heck they're looking at and say, this is what needs to be fixed to stop all the water leaks in this building, because this will be the third time since I've been up here that we have fixed the leaks on the community center. And guess what? We still haven't fixed the leaks on the community center. So I'm just trying to figure out what's the best way to do this, and having a general contractor come up and say, okay, here's what needs to be done, and then you got 6 of them, and they're all different because one guy says 2 doors, one guy says 4 doors, one company says, 3 windows and a door, and it's like, what needs to be done? And so they're going to give us all different numbers. I'm not sure how we compare those numbers. But I get what you're saying. I've had the same problem, just the obverse of that.
That falls back to hiring the right expert, just like you're saying, the right inspector, the right engineer. As long as you hire the right contractor, hold them accountable, then you have DBPR as a recourse if they don't finish it properly. But, I mean, that's up for discussion for all council.
Right, Councilman Braden.
Thank you. Didn't we pay somebody not long ago to go around to all the facilities and inspect them?
What I've seen was we had a contractor look at the community center probably 2 years ago and gave a list of these doors, these windows, seal the roof here. What we were trying to protect against was to spec out, we want doors, we want windows, we want the roof sealed here, and still have a water intrusion problem. So to Mr. Bagby's point, that was kind of the idea of where we were trying to get to, was as opposed to us telling someone what needed to be done, someone saying to us, this is what we will do to fix the problem of water intrusion, and to have some means to hold them accountable for doing that. If that's through the general contractor, which is the way the procurement document is written, that it would be where we would have a mandatory pre-bid meeting on site, and we would identify, here are the problems that we're having. We want to know how to fix it. We're not going to tell you how to do that. Now, if that's through a third party as opposed to a general contractor, we're all about that. What we wanted to protect the city against was specking out something and telling someone what to do and them come back and say, well, we did what you told us to do and it still didn't fix your problem. So whether that's going with a general contractor to give us that information or an independent inspector, we're good either way. So just whatever direction, you wish to give us down that path, we'll be glad to go. Because I think that's the key, is we want to have somebody that we can hold accountable for saying, do these things and your problem's repaired or fixed. And when they're done, be able to say, yes, it worked, or no, it didn't. And if it didn't, this is our recourse.
Okay, I think that sounds great, but I don't know that we've ever, since 1984, held anybody liable for anything that they've done with the city of Destin. Like Jim just said, they fixed it 3 times and we're still leaking. So what's going to change this time? Well, why ain't they held liable last time? The last 3 times.
We'll put the hammer in it to the degree we can, and we'll lean on council to say, let's go get them. Whether we can make it work or not, that's yet to be seen. But I would suggest that, if we go down that path, that we say to them, now, we're going to pay you to do this job. We're expecting it to work. And if it doesn't, here's the recourse. And I think that can be worked into a contract of some version. But agree. And typically, that's the way governments operate. We'll go down the path and we'll do something. We'll pay somebody, and 2 years later say, well, gosh, that didn't work. What are we going to do now? But we're going to try to avoid that if we can.
So we did not hire somebody, even if it was 2 years ago, to go around to all the facilities and give us an estimate of what it's going to take to fix them and bring them up to speed?
I'm not sure about all the facilities. I know that someone reviewed the community center and provided a list of doors and windows and sealed the roof. It was never done.
Burgess?
So Councilor Braden, we did hire Matrix to do a facilities condition assessment for all of our buildings. However, they did not get up on the roof. We did have a couple of local contractors attempt to seal the roof in places where we were experiencing leaks. And really, it's dependent on the direction the prevailing wind is blowing where we have leaks. It leaks in the foyer, it used to leak over the stage, and we did have a couple of contractors go up there and remove layer upon layer upon layer of caulk and putty and silicone, and where past contractors had attempted to install it. But remember, that roof is only 11 years old. It was installed in 2014. It was the second roof on that facility.
Well, y'all should have, whoever went up there with a caulk gun, you should have threw him off the roof. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, appreciate it. All right, I do have my first and second. Seeing no further discussions.
Motion is,
Right now, the current motion is Jim's to,
Staff to bring back direct staff to bring back an RFP for an inspector of the community center or inspection company or whatever to do a complete analysis of what needs to be repaired to stop the leaks. And then we'll work off that. And I agree with Rodney, and I agree with Tori. The key is making sure they do the work properly, which is where we always come up short. It's not identifying necessarily, and it's not getting somebody to do the work. It's making sure they do it properly. You know, it's like finishing, kind of like the park down next to your place. It's the finishing part, which is the hardest.
Councilman Schmidt?
oh, go ahead.
Don't we have somebody, continuing contractor, engineer, consultant, all the long list of people on our Rolodex that could do what you're asking? I mean, is there any, I mean, before we go to RFB for an inspector, I mean, can we just call in an inspector to have him inspect the community center without an RFB?
Possibly. We could, Jeff and I can probably reach out to Matrix to see if they have a vendor, and this finance director here makes us get all these quotes, so we can do that as well. But if it doesn't go to invitation to bid or a proposal or something like that, we'll probably have to get at least 3 quotes.
And I know,
I was going to point out about 3 years ago, or maybe it was 2 years ago, we went through the process of trying to get contract management company. We actually approved 2 or 3 firms that were put on the list to be our contract management company. To the best of my knowledge, we've never used them. What happened with that program?
We hired Matrix to fulfill that role for us, and they were actively doing that.
They are one of the contractors.
What's
Yes.
that?
I said, I agree, they are one of the contractors that got put on the list. And so if you go back to them, that is specifically what we wanted them for.
That's correct, sir.
Yep, so I would agree that the motion that's just been made would direct you, I hope, to go to them and see if they will do what it is we put them on the list to do.
I'd be glad to reach out to them, and I think that's likely something they could accomplish.
Okay.
There was a contract that we entered into that told us what their services should be and what we expected. You might want to get that out and look at it just for fun.
All right, with that, I'm assuming we just want to keep the same motion, just for a backup? With that kind of being the
Sure.
initial
I mean,
address?
basically, we want staff to bring it back to us, and if they
Yeah.
come back and say, Matrix is ready to do this for $15,000, and the issue, and Tori will second this, I think, with water leaks, it does depend on which way the wind's blowing. I mean, I've chased water leaks in buildings forever and still go, okay, this is our guess where it's coming from, so, yeah.
All right, Councilman Braden?
Why are we paying the same guy to go back there and do it again when he didn't get on roof the first time?
I don't know that they were the one. They were the one. Was Matrix the ones that looked at the building for us?
Yes, it was. Now, the purpose of that original facilities condition assessment, or one of the purposes, was to establish a renewal and replacement program for all the major components of the roof. And I will add, and I feel very strongly about this, is the roof on the community center is not a standing seam roof. It has, fasteners, screws. And that has been a access point previously, hence the copious amounts of caulk and Gorilla Glue they use to try to seal it up. But we'll reach out to Matrix and see if they have a roofing contractor or someone they work with that specializes in metal roofs to go do a kind of a full physical of that roof.
All right, with that, I'm seeing nothing further, so I will call the vote. There's always a third option. We could start over with a new building. Oh, touchy. Hey, listen, I called the vote.
That building has leaked since the day it was built.
Oh, I guess we got to start over. All right, ayes have it, so moved.
Same location?
At the same location, plus some. Whatever gets the votes.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
could I
sir.
get the clerk to read back that motion so we know exactly what
Yeah, we
we've
have some
been
marching
charged to
orders.
do?
All right. Sorry, Ray. I was having fun up here.
Motion is to have, council approves the advertisement of RFP 2501 REC, and to have an inspector conduct a complete analysis of what needs repaired at the community center.
We didn't approve any RFP. Bring us back either a contractor or an RFP that will fix the water leak problems in the community center via an inspection, not repairs, just an inspection, so we know what we need to fix.
All right. Moving on.
Before we move on, I want to clarify one thing. I do not agree, and if you're still getting a water leak regardless of wind blows, you got the wrong roofer. All right? So one thing you said you thought I'd agree with, I just got to tell you, I don't. I do not.
That wasn't the part that you agree with. The part you agree with is chasing down water leaks. Sometimes you can chase those forever.
If you're the wrong roofer.
Yeah, well, I must have, well, it's not just the roof, because the drain pipes and things like that.
All right, 3B, so that's going to be mine. I was just kind of going through the line items of everything, and since we've been sharpening our pencil with staff, I just figured I might as well bring some things to our attention that when we have a lot of public input events, there's pretty small attendance, and some of there's several on here that I was like, you know, it's not necessarily in the bid, but I can see where they're coming from. But again, it was just a large number, and I want us to have this program go through. But some of them were like the park site evaluation. It's $7,200. That's something that I know our Parks Committee is tasked to do, and whether they have it or not, in here they had it for 33 days to go through with their clipboard and do the park evaluation. Again, they might have their own questions or observations, so some of the other ones that I was like, oh, come on, this is maybe possibly redundant, was some of the surveying, the statistic valid survey to 2.3 for $16,000. I feel between the SRS plan, the citizen survey, even potentially even some of the mobility plan surveying, like, I just feel like for $16,000 to have yet another survey, perhaps, yes, specific to our parks, but I mean, I feel like we should have a pretty good pulse of what's going on. Again, I don't know if this, again, would make them retract their bid altogether if we started clipping this apart. The last one that was really like, man, that's quite a lot for something we're probably gonna do by ourselves anyways, which is 3.1, Park Recreation System Visioning Workshop. We have a visioning workshop coming up already, and now we're gonna pay $6,300 for them to host a visioning workshop, either with or without us, with staff. So again, I want this park thing to go through, I guess. But at the end of the day, I found upwards of $50,000 that I think were redundant. And I'm not here to like slash this thing apart, but I just wanted to bring attention to about 20K of things that are really like, I feel like we just did this, did we not? And so with that, it's just more open discussion, and Councilman Destin, take the floor.
I tend to agree with you, Mayor. There are a number of things here that we've already done. I think it's too much money. This is the company that worked for us just a little while ago, right?
I don't think so.
They have not worked for us before.
No, this is a different group, but I feel like a lot
The
of
other
the
group
stuff.
did a bunch of it already.
Yes, we just have gone through this and spent this money. So, yes, that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, and I'm not satisfied that the money is well spent, and I'd intended to vote against it anyway. So at least we are agreeing on some of it.
All right. Councilman Trammell, on the other side.
No, actually, I agree with some of it, but however, what they're looking at is much more in depth than what SRS did and the other surveys that we've had done. We know we need more green space. We know we want more parks. What do we want in them? That's not for us to decide. That's what this group should help us decide. That's what their surveys are doing. That's what their charrettes are doing. I went through the same thing today, and I think a lot of it can be done online, because look at the response we got from Joe's Bayou, what they wanted in Joe's Bayou. We've never asked the citizens that question. SRS kind of said, oh yeah, we'll get more parks. Oh yeah, we'll get more green space. Okay, but what do we want in that? You know? So that's where this one is a little different. Anything that we spend money on is too expensive right now. But that's the times we live in. I think all of it is too expensive. But I think there's a lot of things that, I mean, we looked at the CRA master plans. We already knew what the CRA needed. We need a master plan for the parks as well, because we need to know what we're going to do 10 years from now. That's where our budget lies, not what we're doing at this visioning session in a month. So I think that's going to help us keep that direction and keep staff on the same direction, and council as well, all on the same direction, and give everybody a little bit better opportunity to have input than what we've done before. So that was just my little 2 cents.
All right, fair enough. Councilman Bagby.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you and Mr. Destin, and a little bit with Sandy here. There were some of these things, like collect and analyze demographic information for the community. Okay, this will be the 8th time in the last year and a half we have analyzed the demographic distribution of people in this community. So do we really need them to do that? And we directed, or I thought we directed, I'll have to go back and check my notes, that the Parks Foundation consultation be included in this RFP. And I didn't see where that was, that they were going to meet with the Parks Foundation, which is, I hope, part of the solution going forward with the parks in this community. So, part of this is in the management. Part of this is, wow, that's a lot of money to give us what 90% we could provide just sitting down, meeting with them, and then let them do some meetings with the citizens. So I would almost ask that we pull it and look at it and say, nope, don't need that, don't need that, don't need that, and kind of do a line by line. But part of that is, we've got a new city manager, and but the fact that the Parks Foundation, I didn't see that in there, and it may be hidden in all those pages, but I didn't see it. And I'm 90% sure I asked that be included in the consultation. So,
Councilman Destin?
I think perhaps a good compromise would be to table this until the meeting after the visioning session, and give us an opportunity at the visiting session to trim it down to what we think is more appropriate, and I will make that motion.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further comments? All right, seeing none, I'll call the vote. All right, 4-2, if I can. All right, ayes have it, so moved. All right, 3E.
I would like to get a little synopsis of what's going on here, having been dealing with credit card processors and folks who want to add on the credit card fee for me, and for years and years. And I guess my question is for Crystal. At the moment, we're not charging for the credit card fee, we're paying it. Is that correct?
That's correct. The city pays all the merchant service fees.
Okay, and we process our credit card charges through some company, right?
The primary credit card processor that we're using right now is Global Payments. They were chosen because they are one of very few credit card processors that would work with Energov, which is also known as Compass. Now that we're moving away from the Energov Compass software and we're moving to MGO, Paystar provides the same processing services at a much more affordable rate.
Okay, and so they're going to charge 3%, is that correct?
That's correct.
And they will be charging our customers that and not us, right?
So we have that option, and that's what we're going to discuss tonight. So the contract that we have on the table, there's in Appendix 2, we can choose if we want them to charge that 3% credit card convenience fee to people who want to pay online or use their credit cards, or if we don't want them to charge that. If they charge it to the customers, then those funds become available for the city of Destin to pay our 3%. If they don't charge it to our customers, then it's just something that comes right out of the general fund as it's being paid for right now.
It comes right out of the payment, correct?
So we have that option.
Yes.
For now, the city of Destin is just paying those fees.
Okay, so my question is, having just negotiated some of these things, I saw that you had some figures in our report that said we had paid a certain amount of fees on the credit card charges. It was, what was it, 188,000 or close to 200?
Yeah, for the last 3 years, it's been trending upwards. To Global Payments, we've been paying between 150 to 180,000 a year for their credit card processing services.
Okay,
and then we pay an additional $60,000+ to Passport Parking, but that's a similar but a different type of service.
Okay, so what does that come out to as a percentage that we're paying? Because these credit card processing companies, they set your fee based on how many credit card, the amount of money you process. So
there are a lot of different, the fee schedules with our credit card processor with Global Payments. I put an example invoice in the packet under the city manager report, so we can talk about if we want to pass that fee on to customers or not. And you'll see in that Global Payments invoice example how complicated the calculation is. It's not just a simple per transaction fee. There are gateway fees, interchange fees, and they all have different prices per transactions, and they also depend on what type of card is being used. The calculation it's very complex.
It is, but there is a way to get around it. You take the amount of money you ran through your system in a month, take the amount of money that you paid, and you get an average. And
Yes, so the average with Global Payments is about 7%.
7%?
Correct.
How in the world do
And
you
with
pay?
Paystar, it would average out to be 3%.
I'm sorry?
With Paystar, it would average out to be 3%.
Why in the world, that is an astronomically high amount?
I agree.
We pay between 1.8 and 2.1% in my restaurant businesses.
Yeah, again, the reason they were chosen is because they were one of only 2 options that would work with our EnerGov Encompass system.
Okay, now, we pay in way too much, but this one sounds better. Now, the question is, they're going to charge the customer 3%, is my understanding.
Well, that's the choice that we need to make tonight.
Yes,
is
if we make
do we
that
want to
choice.
continue paying it directly
Okay.
ourselves as the city of Destin, or do we wish to pass that fee on?
I understand that part. What I'm trying to figure out is how they make money. How do you think they make money? If we were being charged 3% and they're going to charge 3%, that's a net zero. How do they make money?
No, I think you're misunderstanding. Paystar will get its 3%.
I'm sorry?
Paystar will get its 3% either way.
I understand.
Whether we choose to pass that fee, whether we ask them to charge our customers for it or not. If they charge our customers for it, it just means that now the city of Destin will receive $103 instead of a $100 on a credit card payment for a $100 fee.
Crystal, I understand that part.
Right,
My
so that
question
$3,
is-
now the
Let
city
me
of Destin.
see if I can help.
Let me
Sure.
ask a question, because I know how they make their money. I want to know if you know how they make their money. They charge 3% because they do such a volume of credit card. The credit card companies will only charge them 1.8, 1.5. So they're keeping the rest of the money. And that's how they make money. The question is, why can't we put the 3% on as a convenience fee on our actual bill that we give to our customers and keep all 3%? Or 0.8% if the credit card processor charges us 2.2.
Yeah, go ahead. Andy wants to answer that, but that's.
Okay.
Well, I thought that's how they made money, but I wasn't sure if I should say it. But in order to work directly with Visa or MasterCard, American Express, and the other companies, we would have to build out banking infrastructure.
We
So
have to what?
we would have to build out certain kinds of banking infrastructure. So I would need a bank with an account that could do a nightly batch and take the money from the customer and hold it and then give it to us at night, and then somehow Visa then is going to have their bank send them a bill and all this other kind of stuff. So we don't want to build out that banking infrastructure, which is what a payment service company provides. And it used to be in the old days when I worked at a pizza restaurant, remember, you'd slide the thing over the top of the card, take an imprint, and take it to your bank, and your bank would do the processing for you. Now, in order for me to work directly with Visa and MasterCard, I would have to know those bank account numbers. I'd have to keep them in a PCI compliant database, and I'd have to be very, very careful. I'd have to build out banking infrastructure in our databases and things like that. We want to avoid doing that, and so does MGO, the new software provider. So where we get out of that business, we let a payment processor do all that for us.
Now, am I confused? Government entities do not operate in the credit card realm the same that businesses all over the country do?
Well, currently Destin is not holding any credit card information or anything like that. We don't look at it. As soon as the customer puts it in the machine, it's encrypted and gone.
And that's exactly what we do at the restaurants. So the only reason I ask is even 0.8%, which is the difference in what they're going to charge and probably what they're going to get charged, but we could keep that money over a number of years. That ends up being quite a lot of money. So I'm confused about what you're doing differently than we are in business. We put the card with the chip in it, and that's the end of it. We don't
Well,
see it.
I'd like to know too, who do you use for a payment processor to, you're not working directly with Visa and MasterCard and American Express?
No, we have a processor who's charging us 1.8% to 2.1%. And if we charge the 3 or 3.5 that's authorized under the law now,
okay,
we get to keep the difference. And that's a lot of money when you run millions and millions of dollars through, which I understand the city doesn't, but it still is a substantial amount of money. And that's what's confusing me about the way we do it. It seems totally alien from what we're doing in the business community, and we're losing money.
Well, so that is interesting. So you're using a payment processor who's charging you 1.8% or
Depends on your
changes
volume.
depending on your volume, yeah.
That's right. And it is
So-
that's an average because like Crystal said, it's different for each one of them.
Yeah.
But when you take what you charge in a month and see what they charge you, you can come out with an average that is
Right.
actually what you're paying.
So what would be a matter of us, like in a perfect world, we could go and shop around for payment vendors and find maybe the one you're using, for example.
Exactly, and that's
So-
what we do on a yearly basis.
The one thing that's different is that the software company who we're going to use to run all of the building permits in here, they have to have a programming interface between this payment processor and our stuff. And there's only, I think there's 6 of them on their list that we could use. And we could shop around among those 6. We could even work with them to bring a new one in and say, I want you to now integrate with them, and for a cost, they'll do that for us. But that's a piece that you might not have in your local business.
It could be, I'm not sure. We'd have to check out.
In addition, I'm not sure, but in your business, I would assume you're doing more card at the point of sale location where they're swiping or they're tapping or this type of thing. I'd say over 90% of the payments that we are receiving, they are in responses to invoices where people are paying through a virtual terminal, not a physical terminal at a location.
I'm not sure that makes a difference, are you?
Yes, it does make a difference. Does make a difference because that's part of the interface and part of the fee that we're paying. Is they're taking our invoice out of currently it's Energov or Compass, and they're attaching their links so that the person can pay in a secure environment through a virtual terminal.
Okay. I thought we were being pretty good coming in, cutting it down 4% from 7 to 3, but there is room clearly between 3 and 0. So.
And there is a few other things in the contract. I noticed that they specifically say they can share information on the people that use credit cards to pay our bills. Ms. Coppin told me because of public records that probably we couldn't stop that. But I think we could say it would not be stopping them to say they could not sell the names of people who use our credit cards to third-party vendors who use them for advertising. we could do that. We can't say they can't have the information. I also noticed that in the contract, although it's not significant because there are bailout clauses also, that they have the right to raise the fees with a 60-day notice at any time. You know, if this is the best we can do, I guess it's the best we can do. I just find it hard to believe that. So,
Councilman Bagby? I got a couple on the block.
Yeah, I just want y'all to go back and ask a question, because, yes, the different types of cards, point of sale, all that, but the break point that I can't figure out here, that I want y'all to ask the processor, is where are the break points, dollar value, okay? Because Mr. Destin is right. You know, if one Seagrove did $10 million worth of business and we paid our processor 3.5%, you know, Newman Daily comes in with their $10 billion worth of business and they pay 1.5% or something. And that because the volume is the break point. So I want to know where their break points are. I get it. Everybody pays 3%. Well, you know, the Newman Dailies of the world don't pay 3%, or the Dewey Destins, you know, when you got all those restaurants, they don't pay the 3% either. So what are the dollar values where our break points are? You know, if we process $2 million worth of credit card charges in a year, do we get 2.5% or whatever? So I would just ask you to ask them where their break points are on dollar values.
Councilman Braden.
Thank you. I'm definitely not an expert in this field, but a question I do have is if, Mr. Destin, if you're charging 2.5% on credit cards and you're paying 1.5%, is the credit card companies cutting you a check for the difference?
If you charge, if you put it on a customer's bill, they do, but we don't do that. Well, people do.
So I was trying to figure out how we'd get our money back if, you know, if we're going to make money on it, or if we're getting 2 or 3% and we're going to charge 4%, is that our payment processor, they're going to cut us a check back for the difference?
I think we just hold it. And
But
then
it goes to the
we
payment
give them their fee of
processor.
3.
4% and pay them 3. That's how that works.
So maybe I can, I'm going to try to answer that question for you, Councilman Braden. So right now, the building department sends you an invoice for $100 because you just applied for some sort of application, you just put in some application. So you click on that right now, you're going to pay the $100. The city will receive the full $100, but at the end of the month, the credit card processing company is going to tally up all of the transactions of all the different types and all the different categories, and they're going to take out what they feel that they've earned according to their schedule of fees. So what we're proposing is, instead of sending you, we're going to still make our invoice to you for $100, but now they're going to automatically put on a 3% credit card convenience fee. So you can come into the city and pay with a check or another method and avoid that 3% convenience fee altogether, or you can go online and pay with your credit card. The city will then receive the full $103. And again, the credit card processor will do the same thing. They're going to go through at the end of the month. Their fee is not going to be any different than it. They don't care either way if we choose to collect that 3% or not. But the $103 comes into our account, and again, they calculate how much they've earned in fees for processing for the month. Does that help at all?
Yes, then we got to cut them a check for what? So,
right. So once a month, they tally up all the transactions of the different types, and they take their money.
and we keep what's left. Okay, makes more sense. Thank you.
All right, I don't think I have a motion on the floor.
Motion to approve.
All right, I have a motion to approve by Councilman Bagby, seconded by Councilwoman Trammell. Councilman Destin, final words?
One more comment. Since we do have a very convenient bailout clause, if they can't tell us the questions, the answers, then it sounds like we can terminate it pretty quickly, can't we, City Attorney?
Yeah, there's termination for convenience without penalty. And with the fee raising, they can't just arbitrarily raise the fee for no reason. It's if their costs go up for the reasons listed in the contract, they could give us 60 days notice to raise the fee, and if we weren't happy with that, like you said, we could terminate the contract.
Right, and I don't really care about that part. What I care about is how much of that 3% they're going to give us, if any. And they can answer that for us rather than.
Right now, they're keeping the
all 3%.
They are keeping 3% in this contract. If we want to try to renegotiate that business term, then we can. We can tell them that the council has rejected the contract and only wants to give them 2% and keep 1% for the city or whatever it is.
Well, I would like to see us make money because every merchant and every restaurant in this town keeps a percentage of that 3%. It's part of standard operating procedure. And we sell gift cards and merchandise online where they don't put any credit cards in a terminal, so there's really no difference that I can see there.
I think the only difference, the main difference, not the only difference, that staff is trying to articulate is that because of the other software we have, our options are more limited than a restaurant because they have to be able to work with our permitting software and all interact. When we had the 7%, the reason the city entered into that is because there were even less options. Nobody works with Compass, Energov. But now we're switching that software, so we have a little bit more. We can still try to negotiate the fee, but it's not exactly the same as the options that you would have.
Yeah, and I would just point out that we've got a new system coming, and 8.8% of $3 million a year is $24,000 a year. I bet we could write some kind of software that would handle that for $24,000 a year.
Are you making a sub, or are we just going with it? All right. All right. It's on the floor. Call the question. All right. Ayes have it. That was the approval of. Yep. All right. We are through the consent agenda. City manager, keep them coming.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. Our first item is 4A, is an update on the Community Development Director position. As we briefed each of you, Mr. Lewis has not been able to join us in that capacity. He certainly, if he gets to a position where he can, we've encouraged him to apply for the job, but we do have it posted. We presented to you earlier, maybe last week, the applicants that we had. Nothing that we're real excited about, and not even a little bit excited about, quite frankly. But I will tell you that we have expanded our reach, and as of today, we are on the front page of the American Planning Association's website as a featured job. So hopefully we'll get some quality applicants in response to that. So we're excited that we got there.
Councilman Schmidt.
Thank you. I know Steve's not here. I know he's been working hard, and staff members in that department have. Do we have anybody that's director, supervisor? Is there somebody in charge right now of community development?
Steve, as the deputy director, has stepped into that role, and we're looking to him for that leadership and guidance, and he's providing
So he's
quite
been
well.
put in that position as a fill-in for
That's correct.
director. Okay.
By default, in his job description, in the absence of the director, it falls to him.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
On that line of logic, are we paying him double at this point? Is any community?
Well, there is a provision that he is compensated for it, and I worked with Jamie, and we're getting that in play. Yes, sir.
All right. Appreciate that.
Item 4B is regarding our appropriation request. Previously, we had brought to you and had presented the mayor at the legislative meeting that we had in Crestview last month, and presented the Matty Kelly outfall for $1 million, the Crosstown Connector for $3 million, and Clement Taylor Park for $1 million. The last conversation we had at council regarding those requests, we left the Stallman intersection improvement there for clarity and as we move forward, but tonight we would ask that we also include that and look at a request for design of an underground facility. We had looked earlier at perhaps overhead, but through some research and some information we've gathered as late as today, it looks like the undergrounding may be more cost-effective. Certainly has some value and to look at it, so we would ask that we would add that to as our fourth component to begin our lobbying process, to finish the forms that we have them ready to submit, and they will be submitted timely to our legislative delegation for consideration into the budgeting process. I will say that this is, and we will engage our lobbyists in those efforts. Outside of this, there are other opportunities that we're looking at with Kelly and her firm that is not necessarily in the legislative appropriations process, from grants from agencies and other funding sources. So we are not limiting ourselves to these four. We've given her a broader scope of what we've looked at and had some conversation about. So there's some other things going on outside of these four that hopefully we'll see some progress on as well.
All right.
You need a motion to add that too?
Yes.
Yeah, we need a motion to add the Stallman intersection and the underground, and to confirm that these are the ones you want to move forward to our legislatures.
So moved.
There we go. All right, got a motion and a second. Any further discussions on appropriations plus? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved.
All right, item 4C is regarding our fee schedule for Parks and Rec. Back in December, you asked us to review the resolution 2321 and bring back some recommendations to update that. Upon reviewing and doing some due diligence, we found out that resolution 2321 was never approved by the council. It was presented at the first meeting in October of 2023, and it was tabled to be taken off the table at the second meeting in October of 2023, which never happened. It was inadvertently signed, however, it was never implemented. So to make recommendations based off of that would probably not been timely, because it was never adopted and they were never put in place. So those fees were never implemented, so we were still operating off of 2306, which is what's in place today. So 2321 is still there. If the council wishes to take any action on it, we would bring that back at another meeting for your consideration. But there were a couple other requests at that meeting that we did follow up on, and that was comparing our, specifically Morgan Sports Center, to our surrounding parks, Preston Hood and Fort Walton Beach, Niceville, Frank Bound and Panama City, Helen McCall and South Walton, and Publix facility in Bay County, which we didn't have much luck with the Publix facility because that's a private entity that's not subject to some of the public records that the others are. But we were able to capture the current not-for-profit numbers and the commercial numbers for those surrounding in the community, and those are there provided for you in your packet. We were also asked to provide, and I'm sorry it wasn't in the packet, but we got it for you for this evening, a document that shows what our actuals, expenses and revenues have been historically for Morgan, and what the anticipated are moving forward, as well as the second sheet of the document you have before you are the ad valorem rates of the county and the other municipalities in Okaloosa County, to give you a comparison of what our ad valorem has the potential to generate and what those others are. So just for your information as you think about this. But so as far as the Morgan Sports Center, if there was any desire to reduce those rates to be more competitive, because other than Helen McCall, we are a little more than the others. We would recommend no more than $150 reduction in the not-for-profit or the residential rate, and a $100 reduction in the commercial rate. So those numbers there for your consideration if you wish to do anything on that end, or you certainly do, if you want to do more than or less, that'd be fine as well. Then on the community center, we looked at two scenarios. The current rate structure in the community center is there is a flat rate for the use of the gym or the community room, and then there's a variable component that moves depending on what the use is. If you're going to have 100 people for 4 hours, it's going to be this much more than the base rate. If you're going to have 20 people for an hour, it's going to be less. So we kind of asked staff to kind of review what's going on there today and determine if there was a static number that everybody paid the same, what that would be. So we've provided that for you in both scenarios for the community center room rental and the gym rental. So for the room, the current nonprofit residential rate is $80 plus a variable fee. And if we wanted to have a static number, we'd recommend that be $160 and everybody pay the $160. It's kind of like if you rent a hotel room and I'm going to make bigger mess than the mayor's going to make, we're going to pay the same rate, but everybody's going to get their mess cleaned up.
Highly unlikely.
I'm sorry?
Highly unlikely.
Yeah, right. But there's, and the same for the commercial rate. There's a static number there. And when you look for the gym numbers, those numbers are the same. The scenario is the same. There's a variable number that we're currently charging that has a flexible component to it depending on, again, what's going on, how long you're going to use it, or if you want to have just a static number, everybody pays the same. There's some recommended numbers there as well from, for instance, the current non-profit gym rate is $120 plus the variable component. If we go to the static number, we would recommend $320. The commercial rate is $240 plus the variable number, and we would recommend that go to $480 as an across-the-board fee. In any of those scenarios, we are proposing that we do away with what we're knowing as a reservation fee and make it a true deposit, so that if how we come to what your rate is, we're going to tell you it's $380 to rent the gym at the community center, 240 of that is a deposit, and 240 is due at 2 weeks prior to you using the facility. And if you cancel, as we're proposing, 60 days out, you can have your deposit back. The way it's structured now, there's no refund of any upfront monies. So that would be a change that does make it indeed a true deposit on the overall rate. So, waiting your direction or any questions you may have, and that may have been confusing.
No, I think
didn't mean it to be.
My only two questions, or I guess my one comment is, the more the residents don't pay and the more non-residents do pay, the easier my job will be in a year.
Understand.
No, that's about all I got. Councilman Schmidt.
Thank you all for putting it all together. So let's start with the Morgan Sports Center one. Just so I understand, you're proposing to get away with the deposit not going, it's just built in.
That's correct.
Deposit would be a true deposit.
That's correct.
Refundable.
Up to 60 days.
Up to 60 days. So the proposed nonprofit fee of $13.50, are there still going to be additional fees on top of that are currently in the 2306
There will be
resolution?
a menu of items,
so the ones inside 2306 will still stay, basically, like.
All right, this
the
is your time to
additional.
shine.
Yeah, for lining the fields,
Right.
for grading and whatever we have to do in addition to just typical use, and some of the guys could give you better detail on that. But yes, there would be a la carte menu of things that would add to that.
Okay. Our elite park and rec team, all four of them are back there if you got any specifics.
So I'd like to make a motion, and I'm gonna go at this one at a time. And I'll first start with Morgan Sports Complex to do the proposed $13.50 price, as well as remove the 15% gate fee. And to charge a one-time admin fee rather than staff hours. Whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
So, $13.50 for nonprofit. Remove the 15% gate fee and and put a $100 admin fee instead of the hourly time there.
All right, and before, I guess, let me ask for a second on the motion. All right. To give them a chance to think about it.
Well, no, I guess, I think I know what you're trying to do. I'm just trying to find out where all those fees are and where, because they're not on that one. Okay, can we take down the building division thing? We're not even there yet. And put up the item that we're on. And, you know, if you're on the field rentals, you know, where the lights are $15 per hour, additional field preparation, 20, so you're keeping all that, but you're taking off the gate fee of 15% for field rentals for tournament functions. And then you're doing the admin fee. I'm trying to figure out which one you see, because you're kind of in three different places in this document, and I just want to know what the document's going to look like. So if you say the rental fee, I got, you know, the gate fee, which is on page whatever, or under item, what item is this under? Field rentals, okay. Usually they have a number. Experts, okay.
I'm sorry, you're looking for the page?
347220 Morgan Sports Complex. So
Right.
you're adjusting those, which is page 317 of this entire document that we're, at least the way I have it pulled up. I'm just trying to figure out, I'm not sure that I'm going to second it. I just want to know everything you want to change for Morgan Sports Center. Does that make? Yeah.
Sure. Well, the staff proposed to change a rental fee to be 13-something. And that's their only proposal. So I'm proposing to accept that rather than what they would normally charge, which is a per field fee. And I'm also saying to update that table by removing the gate fee of 15%.
And then my last clarification is the hours versus the admin. On typical, how many hours are we, is it just that 8 to 5 hour? Are you guys billing for that whole entire time frame?
It's over and above the regular working hours.
Okay.
So it's after 5 PM on Saturday and all day Sunday.
Okay, and what's the rate for the per hour?
$30.
Was it?
30 per hour.
30.
So is the admin fee you're referring to, the $25 non-refundable, what is it called in here, special event application fee, or is that a different fee?
Well, I'm just saying to charge a $100 admin fee rather than a hourly staff fee. I mean, the problem with this entire thing is it's very complicated. We're trying to make it much easier. So
You know, in theory, it used to cost somebody between $4,000 to $6,000 to rent Morgan Sports Center for a weekend. $4,000 to $6,000. When down the street, it's $2,000 to $3,000. So there's a problem. So we're trying to clear it up a little bit. So that's why I think staff proposed 16 something or 13 something.
What do you mean by down the street?
Fort Walton.
Price of land is more expensive here than in Fort Walton, though,
It
isn't
is. So I guess, yeah, it is. I don't have to keep responding if you have questions, but price of land is more expensive. Unfortunately, the quality of the land is not up to par, though, at the same time, so.
Well, that's why we're raising the fees, so that we can
I
improve.
disagree, though, with that, unfortunately. You're never going to make enough money by continuing to increase these fees to fix the recreation budget. If you do that, you're going to price the entire world out of coming here. I mean, the point of that is not to make, I don't know what the point of running the Morgan Sports Center is to people. I don't know if it's to make money, because we're not going to make money. The operational cost over there is out the roof. So you're either not going to have people rent it, or you're going to have them rent it at a comparable price to somebody down the street, or they're not going to use it anymore. But
With that, I'll continue the
Sorry, yeah.
conversations.
Just answer your question.
Councilwoman Trammell.
These were some of the questions that the master plan would have answered, and we wouldn't have had to have gotten into them except when we saw the final result and said yes or no, up or down. Because I think this is way too confusing, and I agree with that. But we just put the master plan, we just tabled that, and that kind of bothers me. The other thing that bothered me about looking at this, and I'm basing this on what happened at the Emerald Coast Conference Center. They had a very small fee for nonprofits, and they were being absorbed by all the nonprofits that were not Okaloosa County till the Okaloosa County folks or the commercial folks couldn't even get in. So they were just overloaded. And so they made the criteria at that point that nonprofits had to be within Okaloosa County. And I think we need to look at that as destined nonprofits, first choice should be within the city, and then if we have space, we can go anywhere else. But to me, they got caught, and they got caught not making any money, and they were in the hole, and they had to change things drastically. And I don't want to have to get caught in that hole. But anyway, those are just two comments. I personally would like to see a perspective that is not basically this council's or any vendors or any committee people or any, come up with a plan to help us do this within our budget. So I don't know that I can support what you're saying right now because it is so convoluted.
No, I do like the point on that. What nonprofits use this rate outside outside Little League, I'm assuming? Or no, you guys don't? Okay, then do we get any nonprofits?
Yes, we
Okay.
do get nonprofits.
Okay.
Yeah, some of the tournaments are actually, the directors do have nonprofit status.
Okay.
Little League, we do not charge, just FYI.
Okay, there we go. Making sure everyone's covered. All right, Councilman Destin.
Just had a basic question about the proposed rate schedule. Is it revenue positive? Is it revenue negative? Is it neutral? Is it going to raise more money, less money? Staff?
It's going to pretty much stay plateaued. We didn't go at this to raise fees. I think, the direction was just to compare. So we were just showing you what it would be if we were in somewhat of the same ballpark with our cities around here. It does show when you're looking at it that we are going down, but we also have all those extras that you add when they turn on the lights. Like Mr. Kevin said, you know, we do charge the 15% gate fee. So all of that revenue does come into this, and we will still be within that cost recovery that we are working with at this time.
So you believe this really is cost neutral, or?
Yeah, I think we believe that.
I see some heads shaking, saying that's not the case. Somebody has to be correct.
Isn't it cost neutral within the 15% that we're supposed to be charging? But
Yes.
it's not cost neutral within the total cost of what needs to be put in there.
Right. I believe that we are still working under the cost recovery of 2014, and our balance sheets do come out where we're supposed to be in those pyramids.
So my question is it more expensive with this new plan than it is today?
No. A little bit on the community center, sorry.
It will be on the community center.
Yes, because that did, you know, we kind of needed to go up a little bit with just the one gym. It's packed.
How much is it a little bit? I thought I saw some doubling of fees there.
If I may, we're only on the baseball for
But
now.
you're
It's already
seeing that
confusing.
because we
We'll
have
get to there.
encumbered the deposit, which is a range now and is always added to that, what are we at, 80 per hour for the, go Brody, I need my glasses. Yeah.
So it encumbers deposits? Don't we give deposits back if they
We
don't
do
work something?
not.
So it's
And
not
that was
really,
what was
not really a
confusing.
deposit then?
No, because, so in the fee schedule, a few years back, we changed that deposit. And we did it as a range, and it's called a non-refundable deposit fee. And that is a,
It's not a deposit then?
right. So it is what we want you to pay us to reserve that, to save your date, right? But that is also covers the fees that we need for the prom. A prom comes in, and they're going to pay a $500 depot cleaning fee, and it will not be refunded to them. Now, since that is confusing to people, as we have seen and heard, we have encumbered those cleaning fees into one fee. That's where you see the increase.
And if I might try to help, where you see the doubling of the fee at for instance, the gym, the lower fee is a base rate which will be added to depending on the usage. And as Ms. Lisa said, if you have a prom with, 200 high school kids, that may be a $700 additional fee that has been nomenclatured as a deposit early on, which was not actually a deposit. It was a calculated fee based on a usage that was added to that base amount. The fee that you see in the yellow box that is twice that number, whatever, or close to it, whatever it comes out to be from the 240 to the 480, that eliminates that variable component. That if you're going to have a prom with 20 people, it's going to be $480. If you're going to have a prom with 500 people or 200 people, it's going to be $480. And we're going to ask for half of that as a true deposit when you reserve the facility. And 2 weeks out, we want the balance of the other $240, and then we're whole. If you cancel 60 days out or greater, we'll give you your $240 deposit back to you. But again, it makes it a static fee as opposed to a stacked fee that says it's $240 plus X, Y, and Z. Over here, it's $480 for the use of the facility, if that makes any sense.
Question on the resolution that was never voted on but was signed, but we didn't implement. Do I have that story right? So the fee schedule we're using right now was one that was adopted
before that?
That's correct. This 2306 is the fee schedule we're using now. 2321 was the one that was proposed in October of 23 that got tabled and was never taken off the table.
Yeah, okay, so the one that we're comparing, the new one, the recommended one to is the one that was approved and that we've been using, is that correct?
2306, yes, sir.
Okay, well, that clears it right up.
All right, Councilman Guile?
Thank you, sir. I have a quick question, and this is more for the benefit of the public than anything, but when we don't make a budget, when we don't receive enough money to pay for the maintenance, for the employees, for the staff, for everything else, where does the money come from to make up that difference?
From the general fund, from the ad valorem
Where do we
taxes.
get from the ad valorem? So what we're saying is, if we don't raise the fees and we are not at least plateaued even, then we're subsidizing this with taxpayer money that aren't even utilizing the facilities, right?
That's correct. And I'd say nationwide, the kind of the rule of thumb that you'll see, even around the state of Florida, is that for recreation facilities, they try to collect 25% of their expenditures in user fees, and the other 75% is covered by grants and property taxes. So that's what we're trying to achieve. With the budget going forward, it looks like we'll be covering at about 11%.
So if we accept the budget now and we find out that it's greater, we can always reduce it at a future time. And it's better to go back and reduce fees than it will be to increase again. Would you agree to that?
Yes, and
All
the
right.
city of Destin, we have a lot of projects that we're looking to fund. So anytime a fee is covering more of the cost of running the facility or the program, that frees up a little money to do some of these other projects.
So it only makes sense to me to adopt the fees now. If we have an issue, back the fees off later, but not let taxpayers pay for facilities that they don't utilize. Okay, thank you.
Councilman Bagby?
So, a couple points. All the other charges, I'm not really prepared to discuss tonight because I thought we were just dealing with basically the big three. So I didn't do the complete analysis of the 15% there, or the $25 there, or whatever. And I probably should have, but I thought we were just addressing the three proposed changes. So I will not vote to support those, even though I might at a future meeting when I've had a chance to run the numbers. So I just want to make sure I understand what you're telling me here, Crystal, is that in 2023, on Morgan Sports Center, we basically lost $516,458. The difference between what we collected in fees and expenses and chalking the line and all that other stuff, and what we actually spent. And that we are projecting for FY 2025 that we will lose $823,980. And that next year we will lose $853,430. So, and it just keeps going worse. It just goes from bad to worse. So we agree, yeah, we kind of need to address that. Yes, we should subsidize our parks and recreation facilities and things like that, but probably not to that degree, which was your point of 11% versus 25%. So when Ms. Lisa said it was, in answer to Mr. Destin's question, is revenue net neutral, actually that's not true, because net neutral would mean that we would only lose $516,000 every year for the next 8 years. We actually are continuing to go down. We just may not go down as fast or be in deficit spending. Going down probably has a different kind, but deficit spending. So we're just trying to address that. And so did we run the numbers for Morgan Sports Center with the proposed numbers to see what the deficits would be through FY 2029?
This item was completely made by the Parks and Rec
Okay.
group, and
But
no,
that's fine.
I haven't
No,
done that.
just say no.
But
Just say no.
between-
It's okay to say no.
Yeah, but between you and me, you can see as we're decreasing prices for the Morgans, we're decreasing by $100 per rental. On the community center side, we're increasing a little bit because now we're it's hard to tell. It's just too complex.
No, I got that. I just no would suffice. So the thing I would ask y'all to do is take the proposed rates of charge and extrapolate that out through 2029. And so you can come back to us and say, okay, instead of losing $948,680 on Morgan Sports Center in 2029, you're only going to lose $658,000 on Morgan Sports Center in 2020. Just so I see, again, it's not the deficit that scares me, it's the size of the deficit, because I think we all agree, that we should support our kids and our parks and recreations and things like that. So I'm going to make a motion that we table this to the next meeting for further analysis, and I would ask you, as part of that, to get with Mr. Schmidt and get his laundry list or his wish list or his whatever, so that you can come back and say, and he wants to propose removing this fee and adding that fee and because I agree we should simplify it. God is super complicated, but for me to sit up here in real time and try to do all those, I just can't, that's not how I operate. I have to sit and think about things sometimes. So I'm going to make a motion table to the next meeting.
Right, I have a motion and a second, and that calls for no further discussion. I'll call the vote. Oh. 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 This is the 7th one. Put it in the book. I wasn't even thinking like this. Give me a minute. I really do hate punting, but all right, I'm slowly turning into a politician, I guess. I guess we're still working on it.
Was it next up or no? Was that next up?
If you want to have some final words, but it's over. Oh, no, we're back into it, yes. All right.
Not to table it.
Yes, I voted not to table it, yes. All right, so you're back up.
Right. So, let me just, for whoever believes me or not believes me, the research I've done over many months and years, the reason that Morgan Sports Complex was built, if you go back and look at the original plan, was actually worded to be a Little League park for the city of Destin, if you go back and look at the language, right? And that's just based off of the forefathers, whoever were back here many, many years ago that wrote all that stuff. So making money on tournaments has nothing to do with what Morgan Sports Center is there. I think over the past however many years, we've been making money on tournaments because sports tourism is a thing. I think we all agree with that. So charging more and more money to try to subsidize, try to make the revenue go up in that department, you're not going to be able to do that unless this council decides to put more money into our facilities in this recreational in this town, which over many years we have not done. Okay, so you're not going to increase the revenue to offset the loss until we fix problems. And we're choosing not to do that over the years, and that's okay. That's a choice we've all made. It's fine. The problem that I see not only with the Morgans, but the community center also that you guys may not be realizing is if you want to go rent the community center, Mr. Destin, to have your grandchild's birthday party, it's going to cost you nearly $200 to do that. And you can only do it primarily on a Saturday if there's nothing going on there, like a gumbo competition or something else. Sunday, you used to be able to do it back in the day because Sunday, the community center used to be open. We could go play open rec ball and just have fun as kids. It's not open anymore. So you might not even be able to rent it, but if you do rent it, you got to pay even more money because it's not part of the hours, right? So this whole discussion is not just around baseball tournaments. Please don't expect that. It's not. Somebody told me the other day, Kevin, you're just a baseball guy. No, I have 3 children and friends that are all ballet and everything. This fee structure is broken. We tried 2 years ago, 3 years ago, to try to fix this. This one hasn't been touched since 2014, right? We've gone through 3 city managers now to try to fix this. It's not getting fixed. I don't know why. I don't know why. I don't have that answer. City managers in the past have taken it off meetings. I don't know why. I don't know why. All I do know for me as a resident and my neighbors to go rent a field, a park, for a commercial organization to rent it, it's outrageously impossible to understand and to pay. It's just common sense. I get it. Destin is more expensive than Fort Walton. I don't disagree with you. But our community center is not more expensive than Fort Walton's brand new one. Our parks are not more expensive, and what you're using are not more expensive than Fort Walton. These companies that we are making money off of today, while we're losing money, Mr. Bagby, yes, but we're still making money. You know, they're paying us. They're paying us. Revenue's coming in, yes. They are now starting, they're going to spread out. They will spread out. Walton County is taking on baseball and softball events and soon soccer events.
They're at 3,000.
Say that again?
They're at 3,000.
And they get a 50% discount through through the county's TDC coalition. So it's about half the price. But they're going over there. They're going to stop coming here at some point. So that money will then just be completely gone. And that's okay, because then we can have more usage for the kids in our local programs. Fine with that too. I guess my last throw out would be, I feel like the city of Fort Walton's fee schedule is very simple. Literally everything that we're talking about right now is on one page, on theirs. Very simple. And so I'll make a motion to have staff bring back a proposed fee schedule based on this with a 10% increase from what Fort Walton's is. And bring the financial analysis that Mr. Bagby and how that affects our budget currently.
All right, I have a motion. Do I hear a second? Oh, dies for a lack of a second. Councilman Braden.
I like we're at 11% because we're basically running a Motel 6 instead of a Hilton, or we should be at 25, 30%. Because like you're saying, we just haven't been putting the money in the park. We got a community center that's leaking and run down. Fields are not up to par. It sounds like that's what we need to fix first before we can start raising fees. And where does that money come from?
All good. So, question, the big jump from the 23 actuals to FY 24, how did we get from 636 to 909? Oh, the expenses on Morgan's from the forecast page. I was just kind of curious how we jumped from 636,000 to 909,000 in expenses.
I'd say the primary reason was the Parks and Rec is about half of the city staff, and that's about when we implemented, believe that was our first full year at the new wages, where we used to average $11, $12 an hour for most of our staff. That's where they all increased to the $15 to $16 an hour range.
Okay. Yes.
And also, a lot of the fees that were not put into our general budget prior to 2023, which, that's the way different, finance. those were put in to our budget, and it just, I mean, right, it needed to be there, but it was not there, you know, IT and, I mean, what, all the different things that you can see from what our budget was at, you know, before it doubled, those were not in the general budget.
So what she's getting at is there were a lot of expenses related to having a community center, having a mortgage sports recreational center that were not being allocated out to them, that we wouldn't have to pay if we didn't have them. Property insurance was the biggest one. So yeah, starting in 2020, I started allocating out those, the true expenses, so that I'd know what it costs to actually keep it and what would disappear if we lost that facility.
All right, that makes sense. Thank you. All right, someone take us home. Councilman Guile.
I have a quick question based off what you just said. What year did you implement Parks and Rec taking care of the Henderson Park pass fee? Was that 2024?
That was a long time ago.
Long time ago? Okay. I just wasn't sure if that was recent. Thank you.
Councilman Bagby.
Okay, because I assume that additional 200,000 or almost 300,000 was maybe had to do with the lights installation. Where was that expense captured? Was it captured in 23 or was it captured in 24?
We're still in progress. It's just an encumbrance and not an actual expense yet.
Okay,
The lights are not up yet.
Okay, but I got that. But you're handing me a forecast. So let me ask my question a little more specifically. Where did you forecast that expense? Which year is my question?
In 2026.
Okay. Well, that's only a $33,000 increase in 2026 for Morgan expenses.
I'll have to go back. That's the same forecast that was provided to council at the 2 budget workshops last summer, as well as at public hearing number 1. So I'll have to go back about a year to double check on exactly where the lights were.
Yep, and I agree with Kevin, and I think, Tori, that, you know, we got to put some money in them, but I think we have been putting money in the park.
Yeah, in addition, these numbers don't include the renewal and replacement component, because this is just the direct expenses, the operating expenses. These numbers do not include the capital expenditures for either upgrades or swapping out old equipment.
Okay, so when we do the playground and when we replace the sod and when we replace the lights and we replace, so none of that is actually, this is just operating expenses.
That's correct.
Okay, so the loss is even, not loss, the deficit spending is even significantly greater than what is captured here.
That's correct.
Okay. No, and I appreciate the comparisons. It's hard for us to do comps in this area. Probably Fort Walton Beach and Niceville are probably the closest, because Walton County subsidizes theirs with their TDC. Heck, Panama City Beach doesn't even have an ad valorem tax. You know, they do most of theirs is paid for mostly through their TDC also for some of their sports marketing and things like that. So, but hopefully we will figure out something.
So to try to take Kevin's thing, I did some napkin math, so, you know, take it for a grain of salt. If we're at the 1350, and then the 15% gate fee at our traditional 1500 would have been $225. At the new rate of 1350, the gate fee comes down to $202.50. We're going to reduce it $150, and then we have so it basically adds up to a minus of $522.50, which then brings us to now our local nonprofit rate of $827.50. If I don't know if you did your math, but that's kind of where I'm coming out. If we're just taking the line items out and we're just calling it the new residential nonprofit number, I'm getting $827.50. because the $30 plus the 9 hours is $270. That goes away. But then we're adding an admin fee of $100, so now we're minusing $170, plus the $150 from the original, and then the $225. So,
You lost me.
I know, I'm just saying, that I'm trying to get us to some kind of motion, if you would like to put a motion on the table.
I do have a possible motion. What were the fees for Morgan's Sports Center that were not approved in 23-21? Well, 23-21 was never approved. So what, between 23-06, which was approved and which was signed, and 23-21, which was not approved but was signed, which is a whole different issue. What was the difference in the fees for Morgan Sports Center?
That was when y'all wanted us to, well, we were told to increase our fees.
Right.
And so that's what we did, and that's when it was tabled. And we, let's see, Morgan Sports Center, we went to a range.
That's for league activities.
Okay, I'm gonna, my motion will be for you to bring 23-21
No.
back before us next meeting, since we already discussed it. I thought we had already approved it, but obviously we didn't approve it, we just tabled it. And then,
Yeah, there was no discussion on 23-21
at all.
at all.
Okay.
That
forget
was
then.
something
I'll
that-
withdraw that
yeah.
motion.
That was never, you saw it one time, and we never had a discussion.
Listen, when Ray puts a signature in front of me, I just signed the dang thing. Y'all don't pay me enough.
Did you make sure we discussed it before you signed it?
You know
No,
what?
my
It is what it
frustration is, this needs to be fixed. We ought to fix it. You know, I thought we were just going to address some of the issues. I get Sandy's point. We need to look at all 10 of those sheets and every little admin fee and booking fee and all that. I got that, okay. But if we're not going to do anything tonight, then let's just move on and figure out, you know, make Kevin the legislative sponsor to bring something back to where he has all his little charges, which was my initial motion, but that lost, so, okay, that's cool.
Mr. Bagby, I did exactly what you just asked 2 years ago, multiple times. So I appreciate the opportunity, but I'm not going to do it again until somebody up here or in the staff wants to explain why it continues to not happen. So I appreciate it, but do you agree that it's fair to charge people a non-refundable deposit cleaning fee between $25 and $500 on this chart? Do you think that's fair?
Chart.
The current chart that the city of Destin is using. Do you think that's fair? To charge a non-refundable deposit cleaning fee between $25 and $500. How much are they going to charge you?
I think that it's fair to charge a non-refundable deposit fee because they've allotted for a time.
Of how
they've
much?
Scheduled around that time.
Of how much?
That's up to them to decide. They're
So
the
they get to decide
professionals.
that.
They're the
You
professionals.
think that's fair?
I think it is.
And if it rains and you don't go somewhere, it's fair not to get your refund back?
We don't control the weather.
So I'm just trying to understand, how can we fix this?
So you brought
Because these are the
this-
things we tried fixing and they continue
Yeah.
to get taken off the
Okay.
table.
No, let me just ask you a quick question. So you brought this to us before, so you were the legislative sponsor of 23-21?
You know, we go back and forth with legislative sponsors.
No, I know,
Yes,
but-
me, Lisa, and staff members met multiple hours and
Okay.
multiple days to
So
prepare these things.
was the result of y'all's conversations with Councilman Schmidt 23-21? I'll make a motion that
sir.
we approve 23-21. You worked on it with the staff?
Oh. Looks like Jim's been drinking.
No. But we're not far from it.
All right, I do have a motion on the floor. Do I hear a second?
That's the one that's not before us that we didn't discuss or did discuss, depending on who you believe, that I think Kevin probably worked on and brought it to the council. And then it got kicked to the.
Is that the one that you did bring to council, Kevin?
No, and I'm gonna not vote to approve that motion, and I hope that
All right,
other people don't
so it's
either,
Diane,
unfortunately.
Councilman Destin.
Just asking.
No, it's okay, thank you.
Councilman Destin, someone get a motion here.
Let's just move to the next item.
Thank you, Mayor. 2321 had substantial increases in it, and that's why it was tabled. I made the motion to table it, and when nobody brought it back up at the next meeting, I didn't say a word. So that one was not acceptable in my opinion, and I don't think in Kevin's either. In order to get us somewhere tonight, if Kevin will make his motion about bringing back the Fort Walton fees, so we have another option, then we'll have 2321, the one we're using, the one we didn't approve, and that one at the next meeting, I'm willing to look at it, because I think that he's right. At some point, while we like to say, well, it's being subsidized by general revenue, it is, but recreation has always been subsidized, and we owe it to the people, because if we don't do things like subsidize recreation and streetlights and the things that we do, then what is general revenue money for? So if Kevin will make his motion again to bring that along with Mr. Bagby's request, I'll second it, and I'll vote for it.
All right.
So
just
we
so
can at least have
happens-
something else to look at the next meeting. That'll give us 2 weeks to try to digest what in the world we're doing.
All right, Kevin, you're up.
I guess the motion is to bring back recommended fee schedule
Everything.
based off of City of Fort Walton Beaches with you want me to throw a percentage increase in there? With a recommended percentage increase? Okay. So the motion is to bring us back a recommended fee schedule based upon City of Fort Walton Beaches.
Let us have that one of the considerations that we're going to consider.
Sure.
And Mr. Bagby had a question about.
Yeah, I want you to include the funding, so not just the operating, Crystal. So operating projected, based on whatever the new schedule is, increase is, or flat Fort Walton Beach fee is, or whatever. So projected revenue and projected expenses for both operating and capital. Okay, so if we're only losing $200,000 in operating, I'm great with that. But if we're spending $4 million in light sod, capital investment in these two facilities, then I might have a different take.
All right, got a motion by Councilman Schmidt, seconded by Councilman Destin.
Was that just a group motion? Is that what we just had?
I had some specific questions.
I would say it was Kevin's motion, and then I'm assuming council is making it clear other deliverables they're looking to have details.
Yeah, the information that we need.
Yeah, so the motion is the motion, and we're just gonna let staff get super clear on some comparisons we would like to see as well.
I'd really like to have the motion that somehow Ray has come up with, so I know what
Sure.
I'm voting on.
The motion is to have staff bring back recreational parks fee schedule based upon City of Fort Walton Beach, and to include a very detailed financial analysis and budget that includes both our operating expenses and revenues, as well as our capital improvements and our renewal and replacements, anything related to recreation department that we can analyze when we are looking at this proposed fee schedule. Does that sound about right, Mr. Bagby?
Well done.
Does that sound good, Mr. Braden?
I just want to know what I was voting on.
Ray,
that's
did you
all.
get all that I just kind of threw out there?
That was a good one.
All right.
Yeah, that was a good summary. All right, got a motion, got my second, everyone's good. Let's move on. Oh, God, they're still here. I was hoping this would get them out of here by now. All right, I just have it so moved.
So
5-1.
So just
Yes.
before we move on, just so make sure we're clear, we're going to take the Fort Walton Beach fee schedule, makes recommendations based off of that for council's consideration. We're going to take that and take our usage and what we can determine that our income would be based off of that schedule and our current usage to generate a revenue component, but then also look at the operating expenses and the capital expenses to support all those facilities. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, that's, Kevin's right, we need to invest some revenue or some funds in the improvement of these facilities, or we won't be able to lease them, but, you know, how much, because it's a balance.
I mean, yes, because the original motion a few weeks ago was let's make this fee schedule a little bit more simpler.
Right.
And instead of taking the 5 pages, we were trying to take a couple of chunks, but if we can clear out the whole thing and clean it up using a good one, I think it's a great starting point.
Good deal. All right, that's what we'll work on. Thank you.
Larry, you made everyone happy.
All right, next item is 4D, which is the building permit fee update. If you recall earlier, that staff presented a proposal for amending the the building component of our permit fees. At that time, it was about 48%. You asked us to go back and sharpen the pencil, and Ms. Noel and her staff and the consultants from 3TP did some work. So what's before you tonight is a recommended fee increase that averages about 34% of the building fee component. But if you look at the documentation that's in your packet, then there's an example there of building a $400,000 house. The total overall fee increase is about 18%. So these are only a portion of the fees that make up a building permit cost. So that's before you. We, be glad to answer any questions. And is Alan with us? Alan's online? Yeah. From 3TP is there. So Ms. Noel or Alan or anyone will try to answer any questions you may have.
Right. First, Councilman Braden.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the City Council approve the proposed overall 34% increase in the building division permit fees as presented and direct staff to bring back the update schedule of fees resolution for adoption at a future meeting.
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. Any further discussions? All right, Councilman Destin.
Thank you, Mayor. So it's a 34% increase from last year to the new fee, correct? As an average.
As an average of the building fee component.
Right. And so that is going to put us in the black for 5 years? Is that what the projection is?
It slows down the bleed temporarily. We think that we may need another adjustment in 2029, but we should be in good shape until then from our projections. Now, building can go through the roof or it can go through the basement, and all that may be subject to change.
And our projection...
Based on what we know today, we should be good till 2029.
Our projection, actually, if I read it correctly, is that it's going to go down. Is that correct?
Right. I mean, it's slowly still bleeding. It's slowly going to bleed, decline in the next 5 years, even at this 34% average. But it's just slowing down the bleed. And so, yes, I mean, if we see this trend continue like it's proposed, we'll just have to come back to you at a later date.
And so if it goes down even worse, we would have to raise it even more, wouldn't we?
We'd have to come back and ask for an additional raise, yes.
Yeah, 34% is a pretty big increase from 1 year to the next, although we were projecting it will fix the problem for 5 years. I know at least with ad valorem taxes, we don't project out 5 years, we do it year by year. I think, 34% is just too much for my taste. I'll make a substitute motion, we increase it by 20% and come back in 2 years and look at it again.
All right, I have a substitute motion. All right, you're the On the island, Councilman Bagby.
Yeah, and nothing precludes us from coming back in 2 years and relooking this and lowering it or raising it or whatever. So that's why I didn't second your motion, because I think, and part of my issue with this is, that I discussed with staff, is this is only the building department component. This is not the planning and engineering.
I'm sorry, Bagby, are you seconding this motion? No. Then why are we discussing it?
Because I'm discussing your motion, which is the one on the floor.
No, he made a motion.
No.
He made a substitute
And it
motion.
failed. He already ruled it failed for lack of a second. So we're now discussing the first one.
Okay, I apologize, I didn't hear the failure.
Okay, well, that's all right.
Sorry.
Turn here, no, you don't, okay. All right, anyway, back to the discussion on the initial. Yeah, you'll take you need to push your button. This does not include the engineering or the planning costs to a developer or a builder or whatever. And so I would ask that and I don't like this piecemealing, as I discussed with y'all. I'll support the motion, but I want us to come back at some point here soon and here's the planning department, and here's the engineering department, those costs or those proposed increases, because I just feel like we're nickel and diming people that want to build stuff, and I don't think we should do that.
So kind of a question, because I was looking at our Parks and Rec stuff. When we went from 23 to 24, we acquired all the real expenses. Is that taking into consideration with our building department, all the actual expenses of leasing out the facility in addition to just the traditional costs that we're seeing on paper? Are we following the same kind of accounting that we switched to in 24? As far as from the building side, are we charging them rent? Are we?
Do you mean like?
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, so
Are we realizing all the true expenses?
we're getting much closer. The building official and building inspectors, for many years, they sat over here in the same facilities with the community development people, and the code people used to be here. Because up until 2018, 2019, there was no state law that said a building fund or enforcement of Florida Building Code needs to fund itself, or it can't be a moneymaker for a local governmental entity. So prior to 2018, 2019, there were no Florida statutes. When I came along in 2020, in 2019, the state said, now you need to track it in its separate own fund. So that's when we pulled it out. But like I said, it had, the receptionist at the time would just, charge everything to community development. There wouldn't be a thought of, well, this is actually something related to having building inspectors,
breakout.
right? So we've been slowly improving, and the projections that you see before me are based upon, each year we get a little bit better about allocating cost of utilities and space and so forth. So yes, to your question.
All right, thank you. All right, I have a cleared board, so I'm not seeing anything else, so we will call the vote for the original motion of accepting the proposed recommendation. All right, ayes have it, 5-1. Oh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Next item is regarding the visiting session for this year. We're proposing a couple of dates, and these don't have to be the dates that we land on if there's a date that works better for council. But we do think that, at least by the first part of March, that we schedule a time to do our visioning session. The dates before you are February 20th and 21st. We're looking at a half day to accomplish what we need to get done. What I envision is to do a presentation to council as to what our vision for staff is to implement the vision that comes from council. This visioning session is for your vision of what you want to see happen in the city and how you see the city moving forward. And hopefully what we will present to you will give you an idea of how we see us participating in that as your frontline staff to get those things done. We would also like probably ask our directors to do a brief presentation of the items that was budgeted in the current year's budget and how we can anticipate getting those things accomplished as a reflection of your vision from your session last year. I'm a firm believer that the things that you prioritize, you'll put the resources as a la budget behind, and that gives us the opportunity to accomplish those things. So we want to demonstrate to you what was budgeted last year, how we see those being accomplished in the remainder of this year. And then from there, certainly ask for direction from council as what you want to see included in the visioning of the coming year, so that as we begin to prepare a budget, we will incorporate those things into that. Another component of that is the employee survey has been completed, and I think Dr. Young is working to help us get that in a form that is digestible so that we can take some value from it. And she may speak more to that later. But anyway, just looking for, if you're ready to set a date for that, then we can begin that process.
Councilman Schmidt?
Yeah, I propose Friday the 21st, 8:30 in the morning.
I'm good as long as it's the morning. Yeah, I just like morning either way.
I agree, the 21st, Friday.
All right. Jim? anything?
No, I won't. I'm flying to Naples that Friday, so I can't, but that's fine. Y'all have fun enough.
Can you do Thursday?
I can do Thursday all day, yeah. but-
Okay. Councilman Deskin? No. I can't wait to retire. Councilman Trammell, anything? You don't have all the time to think you do. Yeah, I have a funny feeling that I won't.
Believe me. Either day is fine with me, but Thursday's better if he can be there.
All right, Councilman Braden? Any preference? Either?
I do have a
Either?
preference of mornings.
Mornings? All right. You guys, can you do Thursday?
I can't do Thursday, but if we pushed it back a week, how long are you in Naples?
Just that for a long weekend.
Can we push it back a week?
Is it Naples, France, or Naples, Florida?
I'll just meet in April.
Backward, or towards March?
Yeah, I can do the 27th or 28th. That's fine with us. I mean, this.
Can everyone do the
I
28th?
think we have any reason.
I'll be out, but I don't get a vote, so that's fine by me.
No, you're our energy.
Or confusion.
But the weekend before is President's Weekend. We're still planning our vision session 2 weeks before we go there.
I can't do that.
I mean, should we not look at March and April? I mean, part of me feels like we're setting ourselves up for failure by already scheduling a vision session, literally 2 weeks from now. That's supposed to be the vision for the city of Destin for the next year. But should we look at a different month or have staff bring us back more options in March and April?
No, I would say y'all go ahead and stay on the 21st. The way it's set up with the visioning session is it ties into the budgeting process, and so they need to get started based on your vision, input, whatever, and that's fine. I might be able to call in Friday morning for a little bit or something, and then, get on the plane.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so we're doing 21st morning. All right. Thank you for your sacrifice.
Is that 8 to noon?
8 to noon.
Yeah, it's on here, 8:30 to 11:30. Friday, the 21st. All is welcome. All right.
All right, next item is 4F, and we may have covered this already, so somebody remind me. This was the pass-through on the processing fees of whether we wanted to include that, but I think we probably know what our direction is.
I think we need council to determine.
Okay. So back to our earlier discussion of whether we want to move forward with adding the 3% as a convenience fee to those that use a card, whether they swipe it or do it online, or whether we continue to pay that fee out of general revenue funds.
Councilman Bagby.
I move that we direct staff to proceed with pursuing the pass-through payment processing fees for the city of Destin, which means the 3% is added in, and that's what's collected, and then we pay out, right? I just want to make sure we're all on the same sheet of music there.
All right, I have a motion on the floor. Do I hear a second? I'll second that. Got a second by Councilwoman Trammell. Any further discussions? It's option one. All right, seeing none, call the vote.
Okay.
Okay, unanimous. All right. TDC.
Items G through K are our standard monthly reports for your reference, informational only. From announcements, from my perspective, Crosstown Connector, we are about 2 weeks away from having a development order to get that process moving. The plans are complete and ready to be signed and sealed when we're ready to put it on the street. We're currently working on the procurement documents. There's one little wrinkle that we're trying to work around, and there's 2 or 3 ways that may happen. But if you recall, we've got a $2 million grant from the DOT from our TRIP funds. However, we can't move forward with a procurement that would utilize those funds until we have an agreement with DOT, which we can't do until after the new fiscal year for the state, which is July 1. So that has the potential of slowing things down to get to that point. So there are a couple of things that we're working on to circumvent that requirement. One is our lobbyist is working with DOT to perhaps advance that funding, that we may get it as early as April, which would allow us to go do a procurement for the whole project. Or if that's not, if we can't get that to happen in our favor, we would ask the DOT to allow us to segregate the stormwater component, the undergrounding stormwater facility, and take bids on that separately and move that contract forward, and in the meantime get to a place where we can do the procurement for the construction of the roadway. So hopefully one of the formers and the latter would be that if we have to wait till July, we would make sure we're understanding what that would mean for the whole process. We don't think we're going to get there, but we'll know better over the next couple of weeks probably.
One question on that issue, the money we're requesting in our legislative, is that key to going forward with the project?
No, sir. No, that would be a supplemental amount that would use to repay the fund, the loan that the allocation out of the loan of the $20 million loan that, $25 million loan that's going into the Crosstown Connector to repay those funds.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, judging by the tone of the governor. I don't know that any of us are going to get any money this year.
Exactly, yeah. And the only other announcement is there's been a couple of things that, that has been brought to our attention, and some things that we've certainly found upon our own. That there's some cleanup that we may need to do around our facilities, interior, exterior. So hopefully you'll see some tidying up, a little paint here and there, a little cleanup to make our facilities look a little nicer. Again, both some interior spaces and some exterior spaces. But we want to do a better job perhaps of cleaning things up and making sure we're up to date, and where we can clean up a little bit, that hopefully you'll see some progress being made there. And that's all I have, Mr. Bagby. Yes, sir.
Yeah, as we discussed in our meeting, and I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we authorize you, he has 3 courses of actions, if you weren't paying close attention, on the Crosstown Connector. Course of action number 1 is a non-starter, but course of action 2, if we the TRIP grant's either going to come or it's not going to come. Maybe we can get it in April, and that would be a great thing based on what I think is going to happen in April and May. But I would make a motion to authorize the staff to go ahead and pursue course of action number 3, which is go ahead and continue with the planning for the undergrounding of the stormwater and everything, because executing 3 does not preclude us from going back to 2. Whereas if we just stay on 2, and that precludes us from going to 3, and what happens there is then we run up against the IRS and potential problems with not using the money and the interest that we're, yeah. So I'm going to make a motion that we direct staff to go ahead and pursue course of action 3, but continue to work course of action 2 on the crosstown connector.
All right, I have a motion. I got a second by Councilman Destin. Any further discussions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved. And just something that I picked up, and it came from our Emerald Coast Regional Council Executive Director, and I just kind of wanted to confirm it, I guess. If our appropriation for the crosstown gets all the way to the governor's desk and it gets vetoed, does that then create an issue where any other state funding for that fiscal year also is now off the table? All right, I might have just misunderstood the minutia there. Okay, I was just confirming that we're not gonna.
I think the governor has line item veto, and he can.
Yeah, line item veto, but okay, I might have misunderstood, but.
If he wants to veto crosstown connector and leave Fort Prong Lake, if it were there, he could do that, or leave the.
No, I'm
the
sorry.
other things.
Where I'm coming from is if he vetoes the crosstown connector as a project, does that inhibit the department from funding the crosstown in any other means inside the department?
What I think you're asking, and I got to ask to make sure I'm clear.
Yeah.
If we get $2 million, an additional $2 million in this session.
Yes.
That would be effective 1 July 2025. If he line items veto, does that kill our TRIP grant?
Yes,
and
thank
the
you.
answer is no.
Okay, all right, that was, just double checking on by minutia stuff, yeah. I'm getting to 3.0. All right. All right, with that, Ray, are you good? All right, we're gonna keep on rocking and rolling.
No, he needs to use the restroom.
Oh, okay, that's a yes, okay.
Is Tamara good?
Tamara, I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
Ray,
no
I'm sorry as well.
problem at all. The employee satisfaction survey, as was alluded to earlier, has been finished up, and we had over 80 employees participate, and we are compiling that information. But just as a teaser, in one of the categories, it did show the majority of employees as either satisfied or very satisfied in their overall job. I'm not sure if we're still feeling that tonight, but overall, satisfied or very satisfied in our overall job. So that's terrific. Did also notice some areas that we could pretty clearly improve upon. So that's great. And we'll be working with staff on that for their input and also with you guys for your input. The bid packets for the Tarpon Beach Park project are being finalized this week. The project's slated to go out to the market next week with bids being received mid-March. City offices will be closed on Monday, February 17th in observance of President's Day. And because of that, we'll have our council meeting the following night on Tuesday, February 18th. Before the council meeting on the 18th, we'll have our State of the City address by Mayor Wagner, and that will start at 5:30 p.m. So we hope people come a little bit earlier that evening and enjoy the SOCA, the State of the City address. We're working with 3TP to move the mobility fees toward adoption. We have until June 2025 to adopt the new fees since the mobility study was initiated in June of 2024. We'll be scheduling the first of 2 required public hearings per state statute for the mobility fee adoption, and that'll be February 18th during the regularly scheduled city council meeting I was just referring to. Then just as a sidebar of explanation, the public hearing for that state statute is called a workshop. And staff, we had to kind of talk through this to make it make sense, but it's called a workshop, but it doesn't function as what we typically in this room refer to as a workshop. Hence, it's being noticed as a public hearing. Based on the direction given during the February 18th meeting, we're tentatively looking at March 3rd and March 17th for the first and second readings, respectively. And lastly, we've been working with the Rotary folks on the PRT signs to show how to operate the potentially life-saving equipment that they shared with us at a council meeting last year. Those signs are being printed and will be at 8 of the beach trail locations soon, and we're certainly appreciative to the Rotary for taking the initiative on this. And that's all I have.
Awesome. All right, with that, for the sake of our minute taker, we're going to take a short recess, and we will adjourn shortly. Red light's back on the live camera, so we are going to call this meeting back into order, and we'll get a quorum as they come up. All right, so up first is going to be the public hearing. So, Ms. Kopp, please take it away.
I don't have a full council yet, so I'll just give it 30
I see a
seconds.
quorum.
Okay, this is ordinance 2423CC, an ordinance of the City of Destin, Florida, requiring short-term rental registrations at all multifamily units, including but not limited to condominium units and apartment units within the City of Destin, providing for authority, providing for findings of fact, distinguishing between short-term rental registrations for single-family homes and short-term rental registrations for multifamily units, renaming Article 6 of Chapter 13, Registration of Short-Term Rentals, Single-Family, but making no other amendments to the regulations for short-term rentals for single-family homes. Creating Article 6A of Chapter 13, Registration of Short-Term Rentals, Multifamily, requiring an application for such registration and authorizing registration fees for short-term rentals at multifamily units. Requiring a local responsible party for short-term rentals at multifamily units, providing for conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. This is first reading.
Seeing that this is a public hearing, if there's anyone from the audience who wishes to speak on this specific item, please do so.
Good evening, Ken Wampler, 4320 Commons Drive West. I'm calling to give you some suggestions. I know today we're not talking about fees, is that correct, Ms. Kopp? Not talking about fees, just the ordinance.
The ordinance has no fees, but of course it authorizes them, so the fee resolution would be brought to council at second reading if it's approved on first reading tonight.
And adopted sooner than 2006, though, that's the rant, so. Can I tell you that discussion reminded me of the BTR, and I don't want to bring that up, but the same issue happened there. So my suggestion is you've got a couple things that I think you need to look at. One is, why have an expiration date different than the one you already have on the books, which is February 28th. You have to renew for each year by March 1st. I'll make that suggestion because it's all hand in hand. The other thing is the multifamily, whether it's commercial or residential, you've got individuals filling in and acknowledging parking and noise and trash, and number of parking spots that a condo gets certainly is not up for anyone's discussion. And so for you to make them acknowledging that seems to be redundant in my opinion. And then obviously what I would suggest is say that they have to comply with all the complex rules for the association by which they find themselves in, or obviously if it's a lodging, hotel, motel, inn, or whatever. And then the other thing is obviously the fee. You know, obviously I've come to the realization, as I said before, y'all are going to do this, and you're going to charge a fee. And so is it a fee per property or a fee per unit? In both instances, multifamily and lodging. Obviously, if I have a hotel, that's 150 units. If it's a fee per unit, then that makes sense because, again, I think the idea was to make it fair. And if we're going to make it fair, if there's 150 condos in a complex and 150 hotel rooms, is it going to be the same fee per unit, or is it just going to be per property? And I don't know the answer to that question, but it doesn't really spell that out. So that's why I wanted to ask that question. And then I give you those suggestions as a way to try to make this more palatable for those of us that have to comply with it. I think the expiration date and the fee schedule is going to be critical. So thank you.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Anyone else? All right, seeing none, I'll close the public comments, and I will go to Councilman Braden.
Thank you, Mayor. I move the City Council approved on first reading ordinance 24-23-CC.
All right, I have a motion.
I second.
I had a red light, and now I have a second. All right, any further discussions? Yep, Councilman Bagby.
Yeah, I agree. The date should be the same. I don't understand why it's not the same. I'm not so sure about the parking. That's kind of superfluous, but I would ask the maker of the motion and the second to amend their motions to change the expiration date to match the ordinance for the other short-term rentals.
Okay.
I'd first like to ask staff why they put the expiration date there
Fair question.
as written. Bueller?
Kim?
I'm looking it up because I thought it was the same. I'm looking right now. Because it should have been the same, and I thought it was the same. But on the parking, obviously, there's no new parking requirements in this. All it does is asks the owners to have an acknowledgement that the parking is going to be complied with, and that parking will be done in city-approved parking spaces, whatever their DO and permits or applicable documents say. But yes, the date should be the same as all short-term rentals.
And I'll include that in the motion.
All right, and then are you okay as a second as amendment?
I will accept that as a second.
All right. And then, Jim, are you done? All right, Councilman Schmidt?
Kim, do we need to specify per unit versus per property that you brought up?
No, because we would do that in the fee resolution, but if you have an interest in it, the discussion is
I'm expecting it per unit.
Yeah, and it can be, it is intended to be per unit.
Okay.
And I think the fee schedule would have like a grouping of numbers, 1 to 20 units, 20 to 50 units. I mean, groupings of units. So that's my thought. If someone has a different idea, happy to hear it.
All right. Done? All right, Councilman Dustin?
Just a quick question on the nexus between what we're charging and what we're doing. And I did understand the difference between a motel that has 100 units and that's already bought a BTR. They already have a business license and they already regulate their parking and they regulate their customers. So there's not the same connection between what they're doing and what a freestanding or even a condo that has multiple units. So explain to me how it is that we arrive at a fee schedule that's the same for both of those uses.
That is a question for council. The basis for the ordinance is in the legislative findings and the whereas clauses, but the amount of the fee is up to council.
So what you're saying is that really will be decided in the resolutions? And we have an opportunity
Amount of
to
the
address
fee?
that?
Yeah, the amount of the fee is to be decided. I thought you all already gave a number, though.
Well, we
Couple
have,
meetings
but
back.
we've not voted on it. But my question is, most of these rules and regulations, ordinances.
You did vote on it.
Did we?
Ray, didn't council vote on an amount for the fees? It was like 200 or a couple meetings back?
No, I made a motion for 300 and it got shot down.
I think I did 10,000 and it got shot down.
Yeah.
The amount will be up to you all. I do not think the impacts are the same. The regulation programs are not the same. So if you want to make the fee different, it's totally reasonable. But staff did put together how much this would cost to implement, and the fee should reflect that we get the money back for implementing the program. It's not an annual fee that is profit-making. It is to cover our costs in enforcement and regulation.
And I guess I need to look at that a little closer because I, in my mind, don't know how the hotel with 100 units and 100 freestanding short-term rentals in town somewhere, which is the thousands that we're trying to capture, how the amount of staff effort to regulate those when they're pretty different.
So this
can be
ordinance is only
reconciled.
for multifamily condos and apartments. The next ordinance we're going to talk about is for the commercial uses, and the hotels are
And maybe
there.
that's the more appropriate place to ask that question, and I'll ask the same question when we get there.
Yeah.
But that's the part I can't reconcile, is how we come to the conclusions that they're the same.
Councilman Braden? Okay.
I guess we'll wait, because I was thinking of them hotels and motels as putting more traffic and stuff on the road, and, yeah.
Okay. Councilman Bagby?
Yeah, do we know how many short-term rental apartments we have?
I don't think we know because we've never had them register. So I don't think we have that number. Troy, do we have that number?
Apartments or condos?
I know
apartments. We
condos,
know
trust
condos.
me.
I do not know the apartments.
Without having them register, it would be hard for staff to have that information.
Yeah, because I'm going to vote for this one tonight, but I probably will not vote for it on second reading, and I just want to make sure I'm clear. The condos, I'm all in on the condos. Everything else, for a lot of reasons, of a couple of which Mr. Destin has stated, but also they are regulated differently under state statute and I don't think they're applicable, and they have BTRs, and there's a whole laundry list of issues that I have with the second ordinance, but on this ordinance, I'm just focused on the ownership of a condo is just like a single-family residence. The ownership of an apartment and the rules, I know they're big buildings with lots of parking and people go in, but it's an entirely different animal statutorily, and I think for the purposes of this ordinance. So I'll vote for it tonight, but I'm going to try to convince y'all at the next meeting to separate the condos and the apartments, because I don't think there are that many short-term rental apartments. So we're creating a lot of work for code that we shouldn't, and I'm not even sure we can police those, to be honest with you.
All right. And that
Kim?
clears the board. Yes, sir.
Can we not take that, put that in tonight's motion?
You can take them out tonight if you want to. I would just, that would be a change that requires a change to the title and re-advertising, which is fine, but it will go back to first reading, which is totally fine if that's what council wants to do.
Okay, well, I'll make a substitute motion that we withdraw the apartment-related and just do short-term rental condos.
All right. I have a,
Guys, only on this first, the second one I can't support because it's all commercial stuff that not.
okay. But, all right. I got a second for the substitute by Councilman Destin. And do we have any further discussions on the substitute?
Yeah, can you just, you're concerned with apartments just because we may or may not, we don't know how many we have? What's your concern?
There's a bunch of different reasons, and Kim can probably tell you a lot better. Apartments and condominiums are governed by different parts of the statute, Florida state statutes. They are treated differently by the Florida state statutes in the business and how they're regulated, how the state regulates them, and how the state reviews them. And I just think we're going to hit a hornet's nest for 20 short-term rental apartments that might exist in this town that we really don't need to fight. I get the short-term rental condos, those are creating to our problem. The short-term rental apartments are not creating the problem or really contributing, in my opinion, to the problem that we are trying to fix.
They're probably not, because when you rent an apartment, you're usually renting for a year, and the apartment complex, if that's what it is probably not going to allow subleasing for short-term rentals. Whereas a condo, usually the owner owns it and rents it out for either long-term or short-term uses. So there is a difference. I can understand taking them out if that's what council wants to do.
So was it included just because,
It was
Why
included
was
with with the intent to include all multifamily uses, timeshares, capture everything without creating a loophole. But it's not necessary if the concern is the condos, and I just explained why I think that is more concerning because of the ownership, then you can take it out.
Councilman Braden? Nope. All right, seeing nothing else on the board, we will call for the substitute motion.
Hey, Kim, I found the minutes where we voted for a fee already. You want that now?
I thought so. What was it?
It was August 19th. I can read it.
What was the amount?
Counselor Bagby moved to set a short-term rental registration condominium fee of $300 annually and direct staff to bring back a draft ordinance, seconded by Counselor Schmidt. Then it was a substitute motion to include the hotels and others, and that passed 4-3.
Okay, so we'll talk about amount later, but it was 300. Knew there was a motion.
On top of that, how do you pass a fee for ordinance that's not been passed?
No, it was to bring back the ordinance so that we would implement the fee.
Okay, so this
There's no fee in this ordinance. I'm just saying that in August, you all did discuss the amount of the fee.
we will discuss, I don't know how you adopt a fee for an ordinance that's never been passed, but.
Correct. So that's why you'll be getting the fee resolution on second reading if the ordinance passes.
Okay, well, when we get through the voting, I'm gonna make a motion.
It says it in the staff report. So the staff report says that if this ordinance, if any of these two ordinances get passed on first reading, that the fee resolution will come back to the council at a public meeting on second reading, and you guys can vote on that totally separately.
I think it was providing guidance. All right. Locking the votes. Oh, look at that. All right, 6-0 passes the substitute. So we will republish for one. All right, Kim, round two.
This is ordinance 2501CC, an ordinance of the City of Destin, Florida, requiring short-term rental registrations for rentals of commercial lodging units, including but not limited to hotels, motels, bed and breakfasts, condotels, and similar facilities within the City of Destin, providing for authority, providing for findings of fact, providing for definitions, distinguishing between short-term rental registrations for residential units and registrations for commercial lodging units, creating Article 6B of Chapter 13, registration of short-term rentals commercial, requiring an application for such registration and authorizing registration fees for short-term rentals at commercial lodging units, requiring a local responsible party for short-term rentals at commercial lodging units, providing for conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. This is first reading. This ordinance deals with all of the other uses that are typically considered commercial.
All right, and seeing that this is a public hearing at this time, if anyone from the public would like to speak on this specific issue, this is your time to do so. All right, seeing none, I will close the public comments and entertain a motion. We got some scrollers. All right.
I move to approve ordinance 25-01-CC on first reading.
Second.
All right, I got a first and a second. Councilman Bagby, first.
Yeah, and I'm gonna vote against this one tonight for the same reason that I didn't like the apartments. The commercial properties are treated differently. They have a different standing within the state, and I just think the road that we're going down here, hotels and motels, when you take, no offense, but if we want to take on the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association and have Carol Dover besides our Ken Wampler come just wear us out, that's what we're asking for on these hotels and motels. They're designed to have 1 night, 2 night, 3 night. And they're not in the middle of our residential areas where some of these condos are, where obviously these houses are and some of these monster houses. And so we treat them differently in our planning documents. And, you know, I don't expect to convince anybody differently, but I can't support this. Thank you.
All right. Councilman Braden, anything?
Yeah, I guess my first question would be, was all this discussed to staff prior to all this coming, this resolution coming to us tonight? And then my second question be, or statement would be, that I know that a lot of short-term rental companies now are going to a 3-night or 4-night stay instead of Saturday to Saturday. So in my opinion, that's the same if you rent a motel night motel for 3 nights, or you can rent a house for 3 nights. It's 6 one, half a dozen others. So I'm just curious if this was brought up to staff prior to this being written, and why would they have put it in there? Or
So staff did discuss it. It's in there because it was directed by council. I think staff does see a difference between commercial impacts and residential impacts. When you have impacts in a residential neighborhood, it's different than when you have impacts in a commercial neighborhood. So the regulations that we put in place for the commercial uses are different than the ones for the residential. They are, it's less regulatory on the commercial uses. However, it's council discretion if we include these uses or not. They're just in separate ordinances because, like I said, there's a little less regulation in the commercial zoning.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Gao?
Thank you. I have a possible solution. I don't know. We'll see what you all think. If we base this, instead of calling unit, we do it off parcel ID. All condos, all townhouses, they all have individual parcel IDs, right? A motel, hotel, they all have one parcel ID for the entire building. So if the regulation or the fee is based per parcel ID, on the commercial side, it's just one flat fee that can be nominal. It won't be per unit, it'll be per parcel ID. Is that something you guys would consider as a compromise?
But don't a lot of the condos, I mean, condos are all individually owned. A lot of them are, so it's different parcel IDs.
Yeah, they all have different parcel IDs. So if you do a roof on a condo,
So we're just talking about hotels and motels?
yeah, you can do individual. Is that correct? Where's Noel? Did she leave us? Damn it, Noel. But I'm almost positive.
I can say you're correct. I'm looking at the property appraiser's parcel data right now, and you're correct.
Yeah.
Guess that goes to you as far as legal.
So for example, if we have a $300 fee, you want to charge a hotel $300 a year to register? I mean, what information is the city council going to get? I think there's like 12 or 13 hotels in the city, so you're going to get, I mean, I don't know if it's worth the program. If you do it that way, you might just not want to pass the ordinance. I mean, you're not getting very much back, and you're going to be asking staff to do this whole new process for whatever 300 times 12 or 13 is.
Well, as we annex in, we're going to get a lot more though, right?
Well, at that time, you might want to consider the ordinance then, but it might not make sense for now. Just putting it out there.
So the current, when we started this conversation last summer, the current practice of charging STRs a registration fee is based on their total square footage. So that's why you've seen these tables of counts of condos and single-family residences, multifamily residences, and they're all classified by square feet.
I'm responding to the parcel ID number question.
Councilman Bagby?
Yeah, no, I mean, I appreciate you thinking outside the box. A couple of issues. One's the square footage. So even if we went at the top rate, which I think is $700 or whatever for those monster homes, it'd be $700 for a hotel that might have 200 rooms. I guess we could come back and do, more graduated. If you had 10,000 square feet, it's $2,000 or something. The other thing on the condos, though, is if you go by parcel ID, those common areas also have a parcel ID. And so somebody is going to be paying for the pool area and the hallways and the elevators or the whatever they have in the condos or the short terminals. I'd have to think about that, but I would say probably not, just because I'm with Kim. Even if you tripled and made it $2,100 for a hotel, what are we actually enforcing in a hotel? I get what we're enforcing in condos because they go down and use the beach because most of them are on the beach. They do take up some of the parking down along the beach or down along the harbor or whatever at Norriego Point. But the hotels typically are not. Typically. They do some, obviously. Yeah, but So I'm
All right, with that, the board is cleared, so I'll call the vote. Oh. This is number 8. Oh, man. Motion passes.
Now, of course, when we have 7 members at the next meeting.
Listen, I'm not flexing anything over here.
Question for council. Since we are taking the other ordinance back to first reading, do you want us to wait on this one so they go together, or just advertise this for, do you not care? You want, so that,
have one large crowd.
so we're going to keep them together then.
All right, we're moving along. Councilman Braden.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's see. First thing first, I guess first thing, I'd like to appoint Tammy Weidenhammer to the Public Works and Safety Committee.
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. Seeing no further discussion, I'll call the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved.
Next is appointing John Stevens to the Harbor CRA Advisory Committee.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second by Councilman Guile. Seeing no further discussions, I'll call the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved.
All right, great. Second one is, I had a question about ordinance 24-15-CC that was on the livery vessels. What happened to the second reading? It's got tabled or something? I don't know. Last summer or something? What happened to that?
No, there was a lot of back and forth on that, and then it was supposed to come back, and we thought we'd have a community development director after January 3rd. So we were waiting for the 6th, and then that didn't happen. And then we waited for the 21st, and then that didn't happen. So now we're just going to do it with Steve as the acting director, and he's just a little bit busy. So it's in progress, but we were trying to resolve a lot of larger issues, not only dealing with the yachts, but also dealing with the, what some people call medallions, which are really registrations. And so we wanted a director involved, but it looks like that's not going to happen.
So first reading passed, no problem, and then,
There's direction from council. I'll have to get the old motions unless Ray has them, but there was directions from council to make changes to things.
okay. If we can just bring it back or whatever.
It was definitely not, it passed on first reading and then it disappeared. There were changes directed by council.
It says second reading of ordinance 24-15CC relative to the livery vessels. So what happened to first reading? This first reading passed and it went to.
I'll have to come back to you at the next
Okay.
meeting. Because
Okay.
I don't know, what I recall is that there was discussions about the medallions, registrations with it, and that council wanted to address the bigger picture of how to handle all of that and revise the ordinance to deal with everything rather than just the definition and the yacht issue. But if I'm remembering wrong, I will come back and tell you I'm remembering wrong at the next meeting. But my recollection was we were going to significantly revise it and bring it back to council.
Okay, thank you. And when we were talking earlier about the credit card fees and the passport for parking, what we're paying those, I'm just curious, I know staff said a few years ago that putting the arms in a credit card machine so you can pay as you leave, and I noticed Alan Laird did the same thing on his big parking lot down there on the north side of 98. I'm just curious if we know how much that cost, or do I need to go ask him how much that cost? And Because according to staff, a few years ago, it was just ridiculous amount, millions of dollars to put it in, and I can't imagine that being,
I believe Mr. Burgess is working on something, and it's very near to be brought back to us, I was told.
Right, I distributed a draft of it today for a paid parking solution. And instead of using a traditional ARM type of solution, it'd be a camera-based solution that would have a tag reader. So when you drove, like say for the Marler Street parking lot, when you drove in, it would capture your tag, and if you didn't create a session within a certain number of minutes, it would assume you're parking without paying, and we would receive notification of that. But if you pulled in, created a session, no harm, no foul, you just leave at the end of the evening, and it clocks you as you leave. You just pay the simple fee. But if you're there past, say, 3 a.m., again, we would be notified that you're there and you're illegally parking overnight. So, but the first draft of the second version of that RFP was distributed earlier today.
so how much would something like that gonna cost us to have cameras out there and it notifying us if somebody parked or they didn't, or if they stayed too late?
It's a request for proposals. So sometimes the cost of the equipment would be rolled into a transaction fee like we were talking about earlier, so they could recoup their costs.
So we'd again have to hire somebody else to monitor this system?
That is correct.
So why don't we just put the arm up there? And, because I thought this would be the best thing, just cut out the middleman and you drive in, you pay when you leave.
I'm not a parking expert, but the queuing spaces for the Marler Street parking lot, and that was going to be our pilot project, are very short. And you could have, if you had a problem with the arm, you could stack traffic up on the, Marler Street and side streets. The camera seems to be the way to go. It's intelligent. It allows the code compliance officers to have kind of live data for each of the parking lots. And if they have an offender, a repeat offender or something like that, they'll be notified of it and they can go take action, issue a citation. An ARM won't issue a citation. It'll just block traffic if you refuse to pay.
Mr. Braden.
That just seems like it's a lot more money to have somebody to I guess they're gonna collect the funds. Now we gotta pay somebody to monitor our camera system to let us know something. So it sounds like we're just backing up. We're paying more money for something. I'm thinking about just getting some arms out there, just like the airport. And
So one of the issues previously, before you got back on here, this was brought to us, and unfortunately, it was kind of not all put together, one-stop shop for some of these ideas. But one of the issues with the ARM was the technology on the credit card with no internet. If I recall, that was one of the expensive items that we would have had to run some type of internet service on that. So, but, I mean, all I have to say, I mean, it's a possibility, sure, but the camera thing, I think, it's not being monitored by us. I mean, it's all automatic, it's what a lot of the restaurants and businesses on the south side of 98 are starting to use. It's just an automated system.
they've had a lot of trouble with that as well.
Some have and some haven't. You're not wrong, but that's why they're going to bring us back, hopefully, some proposals to see what we can do, because this has been discussed a few times. You're not wrong.
Councilor Braden, it's almost like the toll by plate program that the FDOT, or the, where you use your fast pass, not fast pass, what's it called? Sun Pass. I just came back from Disney and all that, and so I got fast pass on my brain, but like the Sun Pass system. But you drive through, it reads your tag, and that you would create a profile inside whatever vendor we select software, and it would automatically charge your credit card for that parking session. And any subsequent time you visited our parking lot or any other parking lot managed by that same group, it would read your tag and go ahead and charge you.
So down at Keith Howard's property, I know somebody got a ticket for, I don't know, $1,200, $1,400, because they went in there and the camera got their tag and they left there by jumping the curb or going through somebody else's property or something. And I guess they were there for 2 months, I guess they thought, and they got a ticket for it, or I don't know, how we gonna handle that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I would hope no one would try to jump the curb to get out of the parking lot, but it would pay as you come in. So it would be set up that way, not when you leave. It's not time-based, so it's, it's not per hour or anything like that. It's just $15 a day. And you're not supposed to be there overnight anyway. So, so I guess it would assume you would leave at the end of the day.
Gotcha. Thank you, Mayor. That's all I have.
Let me ask you a question. About a year and a half ago, we directed, was it you, Mayor, to look into the app we were using and see if you couldn't find a more appropriate one?
Yeah, and we had the big bid process, and we had like 7, 9 people.
Yeah, we had several submissions to that RFP, and every one of them, this made it very difficult to kind of see, how the cream rose to the top. Everyone offered different services at different rates and different ways to pay for equipment, like Councilor Braden mentioned earlier. It was just very, very difficult. So we did approach council with Park Mobile as a vendor. Well, Park Mobile does the payment processing and the data management, but they don't do enforcement. Well, okay, so you had to find somebody to do the enforcement. Well, they didn't install the equipment. It just became very, very convoluted very quickly. So what we're looking for this time is a one-stop shop. You do soup to nuts, comprehensive paid parking solution. That's what we're calling it.
Did you check with the city of Pensacola and see who they're using?
They use Park Mobile. That was one of the kind of the selling points is called over to Pensacola, and they are just pleased, tickled pink with their parking program, but they don't, council was requesting some things I think that Pensacola doesn't really offer at this time. Maybe they do now, but at that time. But the payment processing, like we talked about earlier, the enforcement, the equipment, the wireless, these were all separate contracts we were going to have to enter into to kind of get one, to make it work to council's satisfaction. Hopefully this time, this round, when we put this advertisement out, we will get one that checks all the boxes.
And that may all work well. We do need to get back to discussing what we're charging. I know the city of Pensacola charges so much for the first 3 or 4 hours, and then you go to an all-day fee because nobody's using our parking lot. It's empty, and that's not the object. Not only is the object to make a little money, but the object is to have people using those parking lots. And if it's $15 for all day or $15 for 15 minutes, that doesn't work. So we're gonna have to come, and of course we'll discuss it, make sure this company can do what they're doing over in Pensacola, which is, they start out with an hourly fee and then they go to the full days because that's the way people use it.
Yeah, and I think the Howard Group also uses the Park Mobile as well, and so.
Yeah, that's one way a lot of airports operate. You pay by the hour until a threshold's met, and you just pay for the entire day.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think between Brotula's and the Howard Group and all of them, if we're also on the same app, I mean, I do from bigger city to bigger city. The most frustrating thing is I have like 7 park apps now because they're all jockeying to try to become the Verizon and T-Mobile. And if we could not even set a precedent, but if we can just kind of, as a harbor district, have a, dare I say, a favorite or one that seems to be dominant, I think it just creates a little bit more user satisfaction of I don't have to download another app and go through that whole process again.
I agree with you, too many apps.
Yeah.
But Mr. Rodney's arm may well work.
And cut out the middleman, that was interesting.
And as far as the internet, several restaurants in town are now using Starlink.
Yeah.
So they don't have to worry about running.
Well, I was going to say Live Oak Fiber seems to also be liking us, and
Back to us.
yeah.
Wait till this bid comes back. I'm excited.
Yeah, 'cause I know Live Oak Fiber would be more than willing if it's already laid everywhere now. They were already asking about trying to lay and do a partnership with our parks, so. Yeah. Oh, no. All right. The only other thing with that, and just to bring it to council's radar while we're talking, the parking thing, I would love for this to also be implemented at Joe's Bayou. And that way, we don't need a parking attendant taking cash and taking all these other things, and perhaps that service of that employee turns into a little bit more of helping, catching, and allowing the boat ramp to move a little bit faster after the DEP thing's done. So while we're also linking parking, I would also love for this to translate over to Joe's Bayou boat ramp as well, as just a little caveat. So with that.
When we charge to launch a boat, does that include, when we charge to launch a boat, does that include parking, or is parking separate?
I think it's separate, but you can, if we were to pick a program that allows this, each parking lot could function in its own payment process and everything. So that one would just be your day pass straight up, because if you're going in, you're launching. And if you're a registered local, your plate or whatever we're going to use would catch that, and it's a zero pay. Hey, text message, thanks for being the local. Your bill's $0 today.
Yep.
Cool.
Can we also implement maybe like on every slip, like a catapult, so if you sit there too long, it catapults you out of there?
Fair enough. That's probably something that will come up. All right, Councilwoman Trammell.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 3 applications for the Town Center CRA, as the council charged me with doing that. And I guess anyone that wants to appoint any of those can do that during their time tonight, or we can appoint all 3 of them. It doesn't make any difference to me.
Do you have your appointment already done?
My appointment is done, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. All right, so I'm just going to encourage everyone to look at that, and while we're looking, Councilman Destin, if you'd like to continue, and just kind of notify me when you guys would like to appoint anyone if you see fit.
Okay.
Yep. Oh, sorry.
Next, I have, the situation has come to my neighborhood lately, and my neighbors are really upset about it. We have had 4 buildings built on residential properties for RVs, storage of RVs. 2 of those are aesthetically similar to the house, okay, whatever that is on the property. 2 of the other ones, one of which is in the process of being built, are corrugated metal sheds that are 2 stories tall and double wide RVs. I mean, 2 bay doors. And they don't do anything for the house. In fact, one of them is, the owner doesn't even live there. He lives down the street on the water and can't get his RV in. So he went and bought a smaller property across the street and down 2 blocks from him, and built this huge shed. Well, I don't have a problem with the shed. I don't have a problem with RV garages. What the problem is the metal corrugated buildings are now cheapening all the property values around them. So I have asked, I talked to Steve O'Connor, and he said it would be a simple little fix just to put a little line item, so to speak, in the land development code, talking about residential design standards for accessory buildings, just simply saying that they must be aesthetically pleasing or go with the house, so to speak. If your house is brick, then you do brick, or you do some kind of siding and brick, or some combination of that, instead of these corrugated metal buildings that don't even belong in a residential neighborhood. But anyway, I have asked, and I guess I'm asking council to support this, having Mr. O'Connor come back with that item to our next council meeting for voting up or down, one or the other.
Take that as a motion?
That's a motion.
Seconded by Councilman Bagby. Any other further discussions?
Just one comment, Mayor.
Yep.
Council member doesn't need to have the council vote to bring back legislation. All you got to do is ask the staff member to write it and bring it back and put it on the agenda.
Well, I'll be glad to do that.
Fair enough.
So, okay,
Was
thank
that
you.
a permitted item that you're referring to? Was it a permitted structure?
It is a permitted
It's just
structure,
okay.
but we don't have any design standards that says you can't build a 2-story corrugated metal building
Gotcha.
next to your house. Because you got one very close to your house.
All right. Councilman Braden?
Thank you for the explanation.
Yeah, with that, along that same line, I know we had that huge problem with the same building, type building on Joe's Bayou.
Yes, many years ago.
Yeah.
And-
Can we not kind of,
We lost that fight.
oh, we did, okay, never mind.
Councilman Destin?
Yeah.
We lost the fight.
And my only other comment is if this, one of them is an accessory building without a building there, how do you have an accessory?
Well, the house was built in the early 50s, and, I mean, it is a little tiny house about this big,
Okay.
maybe 1,500 square feet. It isn't even being used except for storage right now. So, but they can build a building there. I mean, the actual RV barn is bigger than the house. Well, we don't have any design standards, so we can't make that happen.
Yeah, we talked about as far as ADUs, but I don't think there's anything in the code at the moment that's 50% or 1,000 feet or less.
In,
or
in,
whatever's
yeah, in
less.
residential units, there isn't any.
Okay.
So this would be adding something to residential properties or guidelines. The last thing I have is that I'm planning to begin the training for the volunteer committees in March. So if there is, I will be going to each committee because that seems to be easier than having them all collect in one day. And anyway, so I would appreciate it if you need a member or don't have a member, if you could get them in there by March. That will save me having to do one-on-ones after that. So thank you very much, and thanks staff for their support in that effort.
All right, great job. Councilman Destin?
Thank you, Mayor.
We're going to
City
agree
manager-
again.
City manager and I have been working with Baskerville-Donovan on the Stallman intersection, and of course, we discussed tonight about putting the underpass, and we've got several other initiatives going, and the only problem is, we're not going to get a thing done before the crosstown connector hooks into that intersection, with the exception of possibly using this intelligent intersection software or person. They're using it in Gulf Breeze and Pensacola. It improves the efficiency of the intersection a certain percentage, and what we're asking tonight is to have Baskerville-Donovan go and contact those people that are using that technology and bring a report back to us so that we can at least do something before we open that up to the traffic from the crosstown connection. So I will make a motion if we. Yeah, well, you do on this because this is telling a contractor to do something. I'll make a motion that we direct Baskerville and Donovan to contact the people that are using those intersections and bring a report back to us as soon as possible.
I'll second that.
All right, I got a seconded by Councilwoman Trammell, and that is through Emerald Coast Regional Council is who's spearheading that. And from the TPO side, as vice chair, I've kind of waved a, hey, I'm sure Destin's interested, and I pointed to that one as a crux of, hey, when you're done with your test bed over there, we'd love to be test bed number 2. So I think they're already excited that we're potentially interested. I was like, I'm not speaking for council, but I think that's going to be very exciting, and I think it's not only for capacity, but also for pedestrian safety. There's some very interesting things that you can do, and it's not even Big Brother as it is just recognizing objects and what's out there. So absolutely, thank you for bringing this forward.
Yep, and even if we improve it just 20 or 25%, that's a big improvement.
Yeah. Yep. All right, Councilman Braden?
I'm just curious as to why staff couldn't make that phone call and ask how it's going or how it's working and have to pay the contractor for that.
Well, because I'm not sure staff has the expertise to evaluate the intersection. That's what we're paying Baskerville and Donovan to do. And they have not given us a price, but it should not be real expensive for them to go and investigate it and come back and give us a report. And then we can say, before Memorial Day, let's implement this and try it.
Absolutely. All right, any other questions? All right, seeing none, call the vote. The future is here. All right, ayes have it, 6-0, so moved.
All right, thank you, Mayor. And I have one other item As I went through the agenda tonight, I noticed that there were no legislative sponsors, with the exception of Mr. Guile, who was a legislative sponsor for one thing. So we are continuing to put things on the agenda that are legislative and policy in nature without having a legislative sponsor on the council. So we continue to blur the lines between what our job is and what perhaps staff's job is. We can't tell staff what to do, and they can't legislate. So I will work with Ms. Kopp to bring back a resolution at the next meeting that says if it doesn't have a legislative sponsor, except for housekeeping or state mandated legislative acts, then it's not on the agenda.
Right.
We can vote on it.
Oh, was that a motion? Oh, wait, you're bringing it up, I see.
I'd be glad to be the
Councilman-
legislative sponsor
Yes, I'm.
You're
for residential design.
Councilman Bagby, anything tonight, sir?
I do. So could you add underneath my name for the next meeting an update on Crystal Shores? Because I noticed by the spreadsheet that it is paused, and that doesn't make sense to me. We said we're not buying the White House, we can't afford the White House, and let's move forward with what our plans were. I'd also like for you to put underneath my name an update at the next meeting on the pickleball courts, which I think we've done everything. We've got the bids back, we've opened the bids, what the heck are we waiting on the dang pickleball courts?
Have we gone back out to bid?
Well, we redid the bid, right?
Yes, we opened, and the bid committee is reviewing, and we'll have a recommendation at the next meeting.
Yes, we will. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
And then just to clarify, there was discussion, I was not at the August 19th meeting, which I didn't think I was. What you decided on the fee for the short-term rentals was, initially, I think Mr. Guile made a 30-cent per square foot, but then Mr. Destin made an amendment to say just use the current fee structure, and that's actually what y'all passed with the mayor's vote breaking the tie. So
That was number 3.
yeah. So that is what the direction was on the fee schedule, was basically use the one that we have. And I think when it comes back and we bring a fee structure, it should be a little bit less, but we'll do that. And I think that's all I have for tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Aber's not here. Councilman Guile.
Thank you, sir. First, I'd like to thank Sherry Andrews. She sent an email. I forwarded over to Larry. She is a resident here that was an ISO for Visa and MasterCard for 10 years. I'm learning an ISO is an independent sales office. So she's dealt with this where she's managed it personally. And she is willing, she gave her phone number, and she's willing to answer any questions we may have moving forward on that credit card crap. Other than that, I'm good. Thank you all very much.
All right. Councilman Schmidt.
Yeah, thank you.
Did you want to appoint somebody? I'm sorry.
To the CRA?
To the town center? There's 3.
Who are you asking?
You. Before you give up your talking time,
Not at this time.
okay?
We can do it at the next meeting for sure.
Thank you.
Well, what's going on?
There was an accident, I guess you could say, between a scooter and a vehicle this afternoon or evening on Legion and Nautica. Not sure if y'all saw that email yet. It's actually in front of my sister and brother-in-law's house. And that brought up a reminder to me that we've talked a couple times about possible ordinance changes or new ordinance rules for the e-bikes and the scooters. And I think at one point we had a workshop as well, and I think staff was maybe going to bring us back some ideas from that workshop. So I've seen it on social media for the past handful of months about the laws between city, state, county, and all that. So what I'm thinking, if it's doable, is if we could work with the sheriff's department to work with staff to bring us back now the rules of the road versus the sidewalk versus the exits, neighborhoods and bike lanes, if we can have that presentation brought to us that allows us to possibly make a informative decision about updating our codes and ordinances to possibly implement something for scooters and e-bikes once and for all. So I'll make the motion. Larry, are we allowed to work with Sheriff's Department? Are we able to, I guess, direct Larry to work with Sheriff's Department? Is that doable for the contract we have with them? So yeah, I'll make that motion if you guys could get together, and there is a workshop. I'm sure y'all can look at that if you want, or you can just come and bring us back the laws, the rules, the ideas, and let us possibly make some decisions for safety of pedestrians and everybody.
I'll second that motion because I've been getting a lot of the same complaints.
Yeah.
I believe at the moment it's illegal to have a motorized vehicle on the sidewalks.
It's very, yeah, and I figure there's a lot of that, and if we could have it presented to us and make that decision, I think that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah. Are you going to be the legislative sponsor?
Yes, and please put me on as the legislative sponsor on this item.
Kids don't own one yet, right?
Oh, man. Cool. Anything else?
Well, I would like to make that motion.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. Got a second? All right, got a second from Dewey. We'll call, I guess my only comment on there before I call is I think the most cheapest, most effective way to do this is if we're on what I would call a multimodal pathway, so probably more than your traditional 4 feet. Let's just stripe a line down the middle. There's a walking side and there's a biking side, and I get it. When they go too fast, it goes from 27 miles an hour, then it knocks it up, knocks it down. I get it. We can't really radar them because, oh my God, all these things. My vote, if my number 9 vote is this, I would love a simple striped line down any of these larger sidewalks like Airport Road and put a little person on one side, put a little biker on the other, and there you have it. But we'll see where we go. There's my 2 cents. Anyone else before we vote? Yep. You have something?
Yes.
Yep. Jump on in.
I think we need to, on Airport Road, I think we need to modify the lanes to 10 feet and have a bike lane so that those bikers can be in that bike lane, not on that sidewalk. But that is a wide sidewalk, so it's kind of something to look at instead of putting the stripe down the middle of the sidewalk.
There's a lot of roads that we need to restripe.
So, but I'm thinking that if you're looking at Sun Trail money for the linear park, the N in Sun Trail means non-motorized vehicles. And I think parents need to know that when they buy their kids these little motorized vehicles and they're running around the neighborhoods, I've almost hit a couple of them. That I don't know who's liable for that. Is that neglect on the parents' part because they bought it and their kids riding around, even though they have a helmet, they got a helmet? Yeah. I don't know the answer to that question, but I would like to have the answer to that question.
Yep. Councilman Gow?
And I agree with Councilwoman Tremmel. The 45 mile per hour in Airport Road makes sense.
All right, we got a motion on the floor. Let's call the question.
Me too. Thank you. Ms. Lisa, the mayor stated that the Morgan Sports Center playground is going to be ready to go by Memorial on Facebook. And when the mayor speaks on Facebook, a lot of things are happening around here. So
you're darn right.
Are we built? Are staff building that? As I know it's got delivered, or
No.
is there a contractor or something?
Yes.
Okay.
So the contractor, we have 25 pallets of more equipment coming in this week. And we will bring it down to the sand, so the rest of the safety surfacing and all the equipment will be coming down. And that'll be, as soon as the contractor, the playground contractor, he's been talking to me every week, we're getting close to leveling it, and he says...
So he's like ready to roll when it's ready?
Once all the equipment
It's here,
arrives.
and then level.
Yes, but
Right.
he will let me know that, so we have it leveled when they
Great.
can do it first thing.
That's great. So he's kind of like, he's not 3 months behind, like, I mean, he's ready to roll when we're ready.
No, the nets are a little late coming in, but, yeah, he's ready to go. As soon as, he's ready, we are
All
gonna
right.
be ready.
Sounds great. Thanks, Mr. Mayor, for speaking on Facebook.
Listen, I posted
Love it.
before, I commented before you did.
I love it.
Check the timestamp.
Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
All right, appreciate it. So the one I have on here is going to be the lobbyist engagement policy. So if one of you two want to
Thank
jump
you,
on in.
Mr. Mayor. You have before you is a resolution somewhat dictating how we're going to engage our lobbyist. She's certainly available for any of you to reach out to with questions, or if you need some information about an agency or anything as such. However, anything that we're going to take an official position on, whether it's requesting appropriations, whether it's lobbying for or against either legislation or policies, or any official action we're going to ask her to take, we would ask for council action, and that be funneled through the city manager's office, so there's one point of contact in both directions for those type of issues. But again, once you get to know Kelly, you'll recognize the fact that she certainly don't mind a phone call asking for some help on how we might get something accomplished. So that's the crux of the policy before you in the form of a resolution.
All right, so at that point, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Okay, got a motion and a second by Councilwoman Tremmel. Man, it's getting late, I guess. I'm losing my mojo. All right, any discussions on the policy?
I have just one question.
Yes,
I
sir.
noticed in there, it said emergency decisions could be made in absence of council direction, although they would have to be reported at the next meeting. I was just wondering under what circumstances an emergency would arise in the lobbying business.
That's probably a good question, and I don't know that I have a good answer. And if you would rather that not be there, we can omit it, but I can assure you that it would be an extreme situation, either through a hurricane situation, that something's going on that needs some immediate action, that we would have the authority to step up and say, hey, we need this done, but we would certainly not do it in lieu of council action, but when we felt it was prudent to move forward and report back to you at the
I
most
think
convenient
I
time.
would leave it in because after all, you work for us.
Yeah.
And if you were not working for us, that would be a problem.
Yes, sir, I understand.
All right, I don't see anything further on the topic. I'll call the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved. Something I just wanted to bring up and put under my name for the next meeting is the FP&L utility wraps. It's been over a year. They all still look brand new, and a lot like the Rotary Club with the rescue tubes. They have found sponsors in the community that have just wanted to put their family name, their trust, their business, I don't even think on the wrap, in my opinion, but in this case, I think there would be plenty of goodwill Samaritans willing to help us fund the wraps, and I think we've proven from over the year that that there's clearly no wear and tear, and so I was just going to put that under my name as just kind of a year in review. How much did it cost then? What did we end up doing? Updates of the photos, and just, you know, if it's worth pushing forward, what does that look like? Again, this might be something that falls kind of in parallel with the Park Foundation, but I know that was a pilot program, and in my opinion, it seems to be going well. So I just wanted to put that under my name. All right, City Attorney.
Mayor, if I might just.
Oh, yeah, please.
Mrs. Tremmel says she needs 2 more people on the harbor seat, on the town center CRA.
Yeah, thank you, yeah.
Or she will not be able to have her meeting with them.
Yes.
So where was our list?
We have Kyle Davis, Margie Avery, and Mike Jones. Kyle Davis was born and raised here, and he was born and raised here, and he has come back now, and he's a financial advisor on Airport Road. And he's also into theater, so we might have something. Margie Avery is she works at a bank, and she's a financial something person at the bank. And then Mike Jones, Margie and Mike both live in Olympus, which is in the town center CRA, so they are residents there. Kyle Davis lives on Beach Drive, right outside of the town center, but he is a resident of Destin.
And how many, who all has the obligation to nominate somebody?
Ray?
I think everyone but
I have,
myself and Bagby.
Councilmember Guile, Smith, Haber, Destin, and Braden.
Damn. So I can see.
Can you read?
Yeah, Margie Avery.
Okay.
Motion and second? Yeah, motion and second, I know, I'm jealous of you guys talking behind my back over there. All right, call the vote. We could, but I'm afraid Kevin's gonna ruin that for me again. All right, anyone? All right, we'll take my course of hitting the button next time.
You might have to have a repeat course on that.
That's okay. It's only a fee. All right, with that, I got 2 nominations.
Yep.
Do I hear both in second?
Second.
Okay.
But there's only two council members have made nominations.
We've got 2 so far, and we need another one.
There's 2 on there, so that will make 4.
Yep, so we do have a quorum. All right, so without further discussion.
We need Ray. You look confused.
Well, I was just going to say that according to our ordinance for volunteer committees, if someone elects not to appoint to a certain committee, then other council members can appoint someone instead of that person. It doesn't have to be one for one all the time.
Yeah, so I'm not.
So I just wanted you guys to know that if there was anybody else that wanted to appoint Mike.
I'm talking.
Can you please, Ray, whoever, can you get me that ordinance that she's talking about that allows other council members to appoint people? Can you provide that to me in the council?
It was in your
I
packet.
did send it to you.
Yeah, it was in your packet last
But
time.
I'll resend it.
But
If
I
you don't
think,
mind resending, I got about 500 emails from people today, so.
So, anyway, what, anybody else?
I'm talking to people. I think we should give everybody till the next meeting, let them make.
That's fine, and I'll keep working on other people, so, new people.
All right,
Anyway.
any further discussions on the 2? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved. We got a quorum. All right, now, Kim.
Okay, I just have one item. We got an order in the Destin Fishing Fleet versus City of Destin Burt Harris case on the 30th after, without time to get this in the agenda. And I emailed you all. As you know, we prevailed in all levels of that litigation against the fleet, at trial, on appeal. We haven't lost on any of that. The only issue that remains is attorney's fees. And so I would like to call an executive session to discuss the court's order on attorney's fees and next steps on that.
So moved.
Okay, let me just give it for the record because I couldn't get it in the agenda. It's Destin Fishing Fleet versus City of Destin, case number 2019 CA 0000425F. And I would like to call it for 5:30 on Tuesday, February 18th, if that's okay with the council and the clerk.
That's when
We
State
gotta
of the
sit
City
at the city.
address is. 5:30.
Can we make it at 5?
I mean, I'm planning
We
on.
only have 30 days, so if we go beyond the 30 days, we will not be able to.
If we can do it like a, 5:50 or something, I can shrink it down.
Can we just do it following his thing, no matter what time it is? Like,
Well, we have to give public notice, so
Do you wanna-
no. Well, what we could do is, yeah, we could say 5:50 or as soon thereafter as may reasonably be heard, and whatever time it is,
Yeah.
it is. It may not exactly be at 5:50, but
But it won't be before.
it won't be before.
The SOCA, the State of the City.
The mayor's having his address.
I'm gonna get dressed.
Last year, it was very good. We
Yeah,
watched it.
Thank you.
And the thing is, we have to have a court reporter, so I wouldn't have it at the end of the meeting and have her sit.
She can wait for us this time.
I mean, it can be, if you would like to call a special meeting, that's another option.
All right. Yeah, I think right at, can we, are we good with 5?
Yeah, let's do it at 5.
All right, everyone's shaking 5.
I mean, you're furnishing dinner, so what makes it?
Yeah, that's fine by me. Well.
Okay, so moved. I'm sorry.
All right, we're going 5?
Second.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
All right,
We're waiting on you, but.
all right, call the vote. Unless Dr. T wants to rubber hold your piece. All right, so moved.
Okay, so present at the executive session will be the entire city council, the mayor, the city attorney, the city manager, and insurance defense counsel, Bill Warner, for our ad right.
Thank you for that. Great. Public comments? Anyone here? Seeing none? All right, we are adjourned.